Hey,
Hey.
hey, how's it
Hey,
going? Hello, welcome everybody. Hold on, let's see, it's this one and this one. All right. Hello everybody, welcome. This is our first I don't know what would you want to call it? Our first attempt at making a podcast work with a little bit more of a kind of a plan. So
structure.
a little bit more structure altogether. There are some things that are going to be a little scuffed, but we tried to make it as pretty for you as possible. Uh, so a little bit of a rundown. We might as well get all the growing pains out of the way, the awkwardness. So this is going to be a new podcast that we want to do every Saturday at 10 p.m. CST, and we'll kind of go until we're done. Whatever. It's going to be more focused on actual discussion and topics and things like that. Uh, the idea is that we're going to have segments and things like that we're going to come up with. But right now, we just want to keep things simple that each of us are going to bring a topic to the table, and we discuss that topic until we think we've talked about it enough, and then we move on to the next one. And that's kind of going to be the idea behind it. Later on down the road, we'll probably include guests and who knows what else. It all really depends on how, on how sexy this gets.
Can we do like a 3, 2, 1? Welcome to the night council, like all together at once.
Sure, okay, yeah, we can do that.
All right, ready?
Yeah,
3, 2,
1.
1.
Welcome to the Night
Council.
Council. Hey,
Perfect.
that was pretty good. Yeah, I like that. Alrighty, so let's get straight to it. Um, let's do some introductions in case there are people here that don't know who any of us are. I guess I'll go first. Hello, my name is Arcadum. I am a professional dungeon master, and I stream on the channel that you are currently watching. These three fine gentlemen are my good friends, and they're also my players in several games. So let's go ahead and just go around the table. That's enough about me. What do you think, Scott? Who are you? Who named you?
Wow.
Who are you?
Who named me?
What's your name?
I'm Scott. I fucking love D&D, and I love this man Arcadum, and I love the boys. We've been friends for a very long time. I stream DBD for a living. My life is misery. Yeah.
Relatable.
Russ.
Hello, I am Russell Money, also known as Baby Cakes the Clown. I am a professional clown. I've never gone to clown college, sadly, so I guess I'm not certified. I guess I'm more of like a under the table clown. Maybe like I'm hiding in the vents. I don't know. But yeah, I just kind of play a little bit of everything. I guess known for Space Station 13 and having a horn.
Sorry. He's a back alley clown.
Exactly.
He's a-
Hey kid, you need some honks and some bananas? I
No.
gotcha.
Jesus Christ. All right. Good start. Snake?
Hey, I'm Snake. I do lots of things. I'm a variety streamer, hack writer. That's pretty much all you need to know.
He's also super modest.
True. Can confirm.
Literally awesome in every way.
Mm,
He has a great voice, dude. This is just. I think I'm gonna move this more towards the center, because if all of us are talking, there we go. I'm gonna figure out a better way to do this next time. You know, it'd be really cool if we could have it set up for like how our characters are kind of sitting
Over each other's heads.
No. If one of us was
Respectively.
talking, that like that character's would like that person's head
Their
would
name
move.
would like light up or something like
No,
that.
no,
on the
they would
actual-
actually talk, because I've seen that happen before.
Okay.
No, that can
Oh.
happen. That can happen. I've
That is
seen
You
it.
might be
intense.
able to do that now. I think if you change your Discord avatar to a GIF, it animates when you talk. So if you had all our pictures there, when it lights up,
Yeah.
we would actually our mouths move.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking. Actually, the person who made this was okay. So Pocket Chicken did the artistry, like the actual drawing.
Thank you for that.
John Silva set it up, and his buddy animated it. So I'll
Thank
ask
you
him.
all.
I'll ask him
Awesome
if they
work.
can do that and like actually give us mouths. And I think it'd be really cool if one of us is talking, that person's character is actually talking. I think that would be sick.
That is awesome. In the meantime, I changed my actual icon to like the picture so it can be, immediately
Oh
associated
yeah,
with.
that's good. That's
I
good.
feel like it's a decent idea.
Yeah, we might do that in the future.
Alternative solution. We can just grab Star Fox gifts.
Yep, exactly. I want Pigma. Dibs on Pigma.
Who wants to be Pigma? Nobody fucking likes Pigma.
real good.
Dude, how fucked up of a line was that for like a kid's game?
Oh, absolutely. And
It's
I
so
feel like if
metal.
you played that
Jesus.
and you were fatherless, it'd be like, God, I play games to
Right.
escape.
Your dad doesn't love you.
Pretty much.
Jeez, dude.
But then you see him at the very end on the hardest expert level, so you probably feel good after that. Like, he flew me out of Venom. God bless you. Don't ever give up, my son.
God, that makes me emotional, dude.
Jesus. Okay.
We're going off topic already.
Yeah, we're already rambling. All right, so to give everybody kind of an idea of how we like kind of plan to do this a little bit is each person will submit a topic and then we'll talk about it. That's pretty much the only plan we have right now. As things go, things continue on and naturally develop for the podcast, we'll probably add new segments and stuff like that. I'm even thinking about like maybe doing a thing where we have a Patreon for it, and then people can like sign up on the Patreon and like offer questions that they want to have answered or things like that. These are all things that I'm thinking about that we could do to like kind of set up things like that, all that good stuff. But the number one thing I want everyone to do right now before we get started, everybody that's watching, make sure you go and you follow Scott Jund, Russ Money, and Snake at their Twitch channels, because even though we host it here, I don't want them to be forgotten. All right, so go there, follow them right now. Mods drop links, good stuff. Make sure you show them the love too. Just because we have the channel here doesn't mean that they should get forgotten. All right, so and now the first topic we're going to talk about. How exciting!
Oh boy.
I think there's only one way to decide this, and that is with the roll of the
D4?
die. Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That is the way that all things should be decided.
Abortion. D4.
Oh, wow! All right, we immediately went to abortion. Good job, everybody. We just couldn't fucking do it. We tried steering it in the other direction, and then what happened? We ended up somewhere.
World peace. D4.
Just had a choice, man. All right, here we go. Scott is 1, I am 2, Russ is 3, Snake is 4. Here we go, and looks like it's Scott.
All right. Topic. I've always felt pretty passionately about this. It is about open world games and how I feel like they can never actually have a fully complete good story compared to like a very solid linear game.
Define what you mean by complete.
All right. I guess that's unfair because you can have a complete story. Like, for example, let's look at Skyrim. Skyrim is like probably the most popular quintessential open world game people in chat would know about right now.
Probably.
So the main story of Skyrim is basically that quest where you go to the, what are the Greybeards, and then you go get the Horn of Jurgen Willcaller, you do the shit with the High Elves and all that stuff. You go rescue Esbern, and then you can go Alduin and kill him. It's probably, like, in my opinion, my least favorite part about the game, but that is technically the main story of the game.
I think a lot of people share that sentiment, though.
Yeah, no, I agree. But I'm taking it a bit further to an extent that I don't think that any open world game can ever compete with any single player game in terms of story. And I wonder if people have counter arguments to that because I have not played every open world game.
That's an interesting thing. So just to be clear, to know what the stance, the hill that you're fighting over, is that when you say complete story, do you mean story with a satisfactory conclusion and like?
Yeah, I guess it's very opinionated, but it's not a
Well, I'm
story.
just trying to get to the actual thing, like the quality of the story or the completeness of it. Those are two separate things.
Yeah, all right. I will say the quality of it because you could have a complete story that's
Okay.
not great,
Okay.
but I'm talking about the quality, the ones
Quality.
that stick with you for years.
Well, let's think about this. What are some of the most quality stories? Do you mean main story or story in general across the board?
Just story in general across the board, to be honest.
Man, I think that really weakens the argument that you made because, see, if you include story across the board, that means you include side quests, you include individual NPC quests for like party members, And you also include world building, because that's part of the storytelling as well. Because I think specifically for Skyrim, most people don't like Skyrim's main story, but they don't play it for the main story for Skyrim. They play it for everything else in the game. Go ahead, Snake.
I would like clarification. Do you mean the overall story or the narrative? Those are two different things.
You're right. It would be the narrative then that I'm looking for, not you're not the overall story. That's a better distinction.
Okay.
And if it's not so much a controversial topic, how about can we brainstorm a way to make an open world game that can rival a story like a Metal Gear Solid 3 or like a linear game?
I think
like
it is
that?
Controversial enough. I think
enough.
there's enough contention there, because here's the thing, right? I think that there are, look, I'm gonna hit you with the other side of the bet, all right?
Okay.
I actually think that most straight up non-open world single player games can't have as in depth of a story as an open world game. And the reason for that is because there's just less space to play with. So like, you take a single player game, right, that has no open world, like what's a good example that has no open world whatsoever? Like Sudeki, right? Oh, nobody's gonna fucking play that game. Never mind. Nobody knows what I'm fucking talking about. I'm sorry. Nobody knows what the fuck Sudeki is. I don't know why I said that. Nobody fucking played Sudeki other than me.
Last of Us.
Last of Us, sure, right? You got this narrative-driven game like Last of Us. Okay, so you've got good character development, you got all of that. Now, what carries the story in that? It's the characters. It's the motion capture. Shit like that, right? But you don't really see much of the city. You don't actually really even learn that much about the zombies that you fight. Like, you really don't. Whereas you take a game like that, but then you compare it to like Final Fantasy VII, for example, which has a massive open world contained within a single-player game where you can travel all over the world, and each of the different regions have different like cultures, different soundtracks. Like, that's I would say on the other kilt. Whereas you might say that there's not, as good of a story in an open world game. I would say that there is less of a story in a non-open world game. It's shallower overall.
See, I think what we're boiling it down to is lore versus narrative, because in an open world game, you're right, you will have more world building, but that is sort of lore. That's, I think, what Bethesda is very good at. They're super good at lore and the world being a very real place that exists. But when I'm actually in the game, I find myself not giving a shit about any of the characters that I'm interacting with.
Why do you think that is? Oh, go ahead, Snake. Go ahead.
The whole FF7 thing, that's not an open world game at all. That's very linear.
Yeah, Final Fantasy VII is super linear. Just because it's a world map does not make it an open world game.
It has multiple set pieces, and there are different locations you can go, but you go them in sequence.
Oh, so is your definition of open world that you can sequence break?
It's not necessarily just that you can sequence break. It's that you are presented with a world and you can sort of create your own story instead of following the story that's being delivered by the game.
Well, then I can tell you about the most ultimate game that is open
Space
world.
Station 13.
Close.
Oh.
Dwarf Fortress, actually. Because it has
Dwarf Fortress.
It has an adventure mode where, the entire history of the world is created for you, and that's terrain, erosion, wars are fought, people have kids, historical figures die, dragons are born, they become adults, stuff like that. They go on raids. It creates its own whole story that when you start playing from whatever year you begin in, you can actually go into a town and strike up a conversation with NPC, and they will actually tell you all the woes that are affecting their village and stuff. Of course, you can rob them, kill them, whatever you want, and then you can go out and go become a hero, or maybe even there's so many endless possibilities in Dwarf Fortress that create your own story.
How do you win in Dwarf Fortress? What is
there is no winning.
There is no, so it's forever open-ended.
So but that's
it's whatever you set out to do. It's sandbox.
I think that's the problem. I think we're confusing a lot of different genres, right? Because what you've just described is a sandbox game, which is not a game strictly speaking. Just like Minecraft isn't a game strictly speaking. It has no objective. It has no ending. If we're talking about a story, which is the original thing that we were talking about, a story has a beginning, a middle, and an end. It is a complete narrative piece. Now, the argument, as it stands from Scott's perspective, is that stories that are placed in open world games are not as good to the subjectivity of that term good as a story placed in a non-open world game. Is that basically what you've been saying, Scott?
Pretty much, yeah. See, like the thing is, when you have that many options for the player to go, you can't interweave that many things because you cannot guarantee a player will see everything and connect these dots.
Okay.
The only game where you can do that, I think, is D&D.
Okay, let's not use D&D because that's unfair in all settings. Let's put D&D to the side for a moment, as difficult as that is for me. So let's actually define an open world game that isn't a sandbox game.
Okay.
And then we can compare that story to a game that doesn't, the game that is not that.
I still think we should keep it simple with Skyrim. It's not really a sandbox game. There is an ending to that story.
So Bethesda games, because also Fallout could fall into that same thing, right?
Sure.
Yeah, so could Insomniac, Spider-Man.
Never played it, unfortunately.
I guess Divinity and stuff like that as well.
I don't know about Divinity. Because that's...
Isn't there not a beginning and an end game?
Well, that's the thing, though. We're talking open world specifically. Now, if the definition of open world is not that you can sequence break, then you can't count Divinity and not count Final Fantasy under that definition. Because you can do things out of order in Final Fantasy too. Yes, they're ultimately linear, but so is Skyrim in that case, because it's ultimately linear. Like, I think the definition between having a story that has a beginning and an end, right? I think the only thing that's truly open world, if we're having that base of a definition, are games like Minecraft and Dwarf Fortress, which, it's like, but they don't have any objective. So, I guess
you create your own.
I guess let me put it to you this way. Narratively speaking, I think when we're actually calculating this, right? Narratively speaking, I think that an open world game gets to make more mistakes than a closed world game. Because an open world game can have dead ends that can be ignored ultimately. That will have less impact overall. But by that same advantage, everything has less impact. Because what ultimately makes a story good, in my opinion, is the motivation that I, as the player, have to want to actually do it. And if by the concourse of having that matter to me, then it needs to have real stakes. And in an open world game like Skyrim, if I go and randomly kill some fucking person, right, it doesn't have any impact. Killing a bandit doesn't do anything except give me loot. You know what I mean? Whereas
their family's not gonna miss them or anything.
Yeah, like if you did that like in a game like Vampire the Masquerade, though, or something like that, in which all characters are melded, that's gonna have real impact. So it's like, yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think?
I'm curious. Does Breath of the Wild fall under this definition?
Breath of the Wild's definitely an open world game, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Right, because they straight up like, here's your challenge, get to it. Of course, you need like certain upgrades until you like literally know how to speedrun the game and can sequence break it that way.
Well, I mean, the thing is though that still meets my whole belief that, I mean, Breath of the Wild story is not that great. The game is awesome. It's super fun, but the story is just go to castle, kill Ganon.
Yep.
It's pretty simple.
Don't even need the Master Sword.
The interesting thing to me about Breath of the Wild is that it relies so heavily on world building and past events that the current narrative doesn't matter as much.
True.
I'm trying to think of good examples of single player games whose stories are told open-endedly, and the only game I can think of is Kingdoms of Amalur. Because Kingdoms of Amalur is an open world game by the definitions that we have stated. And I personally think that it's probably the best example of an open world game having an amazing story. But
see, I've played Kingdoms of Amalur. I love the actual gameplay of that game, but I didn't find myself super captivated by the story. I think the whole thing with like the ballads and the like all the stuff with the ballads and stuff is really cool, but I found the story of that game to be like, the ending boss was just like, Who the fuck is this?
Well, see, the thing is that if you're gonna tell a story in an open world game, you need to tell it in different ways. You can't only just tell it through character experiences. You have to hide it in places because people are gonna explore. So you have to reward exploration. And one of the things that they did in Kingdoms of Amalur to reward that exploration were the lore stones that you could find, and then you'd have somebody who tells you a story and like fills in pieces that are missing while you continue to do the gameplay loop. And I thought that was really good. And better yet, an even better example is, what about the new God of War? Let's talk about that one, right? That's
Okay.
I would consider that to be open world because you can do it in different ways. I would consider that to have a phenomenal story, and not just in the writing, but in all aspects. Because I'll go back to Kings of Amalur a little bit. Saying that you didn't like the story of Kings of Amalur, is that indicative of your particular taste of that kind of story? Or is that indicative of your point of an open world game can't have a good story? Because I don't think those two things are the same.
I'm not sure if they're necessarily related. I'm just saying the whole overall narrative of that game I found to be not super nice. I think the lore of that world was pretty cool, but I think the actual narrative was super weak.
Yeah, I think the new God of War is the quintessential example of that. If you do it right, then you get the fun gameplay exploration aspect of an open world game with good story, because that had good storytelling in it.
See, yeah, go ahead, Snake.
See, I agree that the narrative in the new God of War was strong, but I did find the gameplay to be lacking.
Really?
Yeah, like
Too
after a while,
repetitive?
that gameplay loop got old for me.
Did you play it
I
hard?
did. I don't think so.
I think, and this is an example of another issue that I have, but I might make it a different topic. Is I hate it when they gateway mechanics behind difficulties. I hate that.
Oh yeah, that's
terrible. That's
terrible.
probably why you thought it got old, Snake, is because if you don't play on hard, you lose an entire gameplay mechanic that changes everything and makes it way better. So in the harder difficulties, if you don't kill the enemies fast enough, they transform into more powerful versions of themselves with different attacks, different statistics, like an entirely different aspect of the game if you don't play on hard. And it doesn't really tell you that. So that means that people that play like the normal version of the game, now they might have changed that, but I know that when I first started playing it, if you didn't play on hard, you didn't get to see half the moves in the game. You just didn't get to see it. And I thought that was ridiculous.
The hardest part of my playthrough of that, which I'm pretty sure was on normal, was dealing with the Valkyries at levels
that
I
was
should
so
not have
fun.
been dealing with them.
Yeah.
It was a good time.
Real accomplishing, or it just felt good to get it
See,
done.
it's interesting. We're talking about God of War, but I don't think God of War is an open world game at all, actually. I think it's a hub-based game, which is not open world.
That's fair.
I mean, it is like point A to point B with just a lot of stuff to do
Okay,
everywhere.
well then let's define open world, because it seems like we haven't really decided what open world means. So what does open world mean?
Open world means you load into the game and you can walk to any location in the game and just do whatever is there.
So no narrative lock.
Correct.
Man, there are not a lot of games that do that. You know?
It's pretty much the Bethesda open world games at that point. Yeah.
If that's your line, then we've got Bethesda games, we've got Minecraft, we've got Dwarf Fortress, and we've got role play intensive games. Maybe Far
Kind
Cry.
of a messy
also
genre
Far Cry.
to define.
Yeah.
I reintroduced Breath of the Wild and Insomniac Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or Far Cry. Far Cry is a good example of open world. You can do that shit however you want.
That's open world, definitely.
Yeah. And man, you know what? Actually, I'm gonna put my chips on Far Cry, because I think Far Cry has good storytelling for an FPS game, bro. Far Cry has good storytelling, good characters too. Like Far Cry 3 had one of the best villains ever.
Voss is awesome.
Yeah, Voss is a great villain, and he was dynamic. So you know what? I think if we're gonna talk about good storytelling, let me go a little bit outside my wheelhouse and say, you know what? Give me Far Cry. Far Cry's got awesome open world stuff. It's got good storytelling. It's got a dynamic villain. It's got everything. I
never beat Far Cry 3. How often does Voss actually show up? Because I know in 4 and 5 the villains are not very present for much of the game, and it's kind of meh.
Voss and his like other counterparts constantly talk shit to you. Like you get a little bit of a breathing space between him and whenever you get to him, but they don't overuse him, but they use him enough to get you enticed. Now, he is not the main antagonist. He's like a lieutenant, but he's the introductory one. He's the one that gets you, like, I guess, in the mood of what is happening. And that's what makes him so good. Plus his opening trust, like, you got your finger on the pussy trigger, you know, and he like just that is so fucking good. Like, so, you know, I think a little bit of that may be my bias towards the fact that the actor that played him nailed it. Like,
Michael Mando, yeah,
nailed that fucking role, like, hard, you know. So I think that's something to think about. And you know, that's really weird to me too, is because it's like FPS games are not known for their good storytelling. Not really.
Right.
Like, some of them are good. Some, like, when you get a good storytelling narrative in a shooting game, it's like, wow. You know?
I'm sorry, but going on a demon murder rampage in Doom because they killed my bunny, that's the best story.
Look, I will fight and die on that hill with you, Russ, that Doom is one of the greatest games ever made, period. But Doom was not Doom because of its story. Doom was Doom because fuck that demon in particular.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, like, it. See, and that's the thing. It knows what it is. Doom doesn't pretend to be anything else. That's my favorite kind of game. A game that doesn't try to, like, be more than it is. Just, yeah, what are you doing? Killing demons. Why? Fuck them. You know?
They're demons.
That's it.
I have a boomstick. What else do you expect me to do?
Go get them. Go get them,
Rip
Tiger.
and tear.
Yeah, exactly.
I do really respect games that acknowledge that they're a game and they're meant to be fun, and that's it. That's just what they are.
Like Metal Gear Solid, dude. Like the what is it, 5? Man, that game has so many references to itself being a game, and they know it. Like, it's like they give you the ability to like put on a chicken head and like fucking run. You know, anytime a game is like, you know what, we're a game, let's do this. You know, that's good stuff.
Kojima's like fourth wall breaking is like his crack. He does that in every MGS game.
Yeah, but anyway, a little off topic there. I think that the resounding point of let's try to answer it of, does an open world game by definition mean that its narrative / story is weaker? I would say no. I don't think that's definitive. Yeah. I don't think so. What do you guys think?
I think Far Cry is probably the best example of that a game can be open-ended and open world and still have a really good story to go along with it.
Well, let's tackle that. The open world aspects of Far Cry games, do the open world things you do affect the story? Because I know there's like outposts and things like that, but none of it really affects the story other than your control of the region.
Actually, it does. Because there are pieces of lore that you won't find unless you actually go do the side stuff. Like, you find out, like, who Voss actually is. You find out who, like, the people that you're trying to protect are. And they add to it. Now, do they trigger specific special cutscenes? No. But that's, like, a budget issue. Not really a storytelling issue, I think.
Okay, adding to the story or adding to the narrative. That distinction, again, it's an important one, I think. Because if narrative is the focus, adding something to the story is meaningless.
Well, okay, I know those things are separate, but are they separate in the case of what we're defining?
I think so. Because
Okay.
if you're talking about world, like if you're including world building, and I would classify what you just described as world building, then like that to me is completely different than the story that the game itself is trying to tell you through its like purposeful steering of the player. Having something there for you to find is not the same as them presenting a story.
Well, I think if that's the case, then no, it does not. Then those side things do not actually impact the story. But I would also argue that if that's the case, then very few things actually impact the story then, if they have any openness to them at all. And I think that having something to do that doesn't impact the story doesn't make the story worse.
I agree.
I agree with that too.
I don't think that's definitive. I will say, however, that having that having the stuff that doesn't impact the story be more interesting than the story itself, I think that's a higher risk in an open world game, because that is demonstrated in Skyrim a lot. Like, the main story is you're the Dragonborn, you're doing Dragonborn shit, right? But that's just not as interesting as I'm gonna go put a bucket on this guy's head and steal his pants. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that's the ending line right there, is that I don't think it's definitive that it's worse, but I certainly think that the chance of you being more, as a player, being more interested in things that don't impact the story are certainly higher in open world, and therefore you can lose focus, I think.
Sure, I can agree with that.
I think that is definitely a good argument to make, and I think because of that, the story would be weaker. Because of that, I think that, yeah, I can see that.
I don't necessarily think that having a more shallow story is the same as it being weaker. Like, you can have a story that doesn't have depth that can still be impactful to the player.
I think The Last of Us is a perfect example of that.
Yeah.
Super simple story, but still very memorable moments and memorable characters. So
there's just so many aspects to it.
there is. It's a very vague argument.
Dude, like a good character can just make the story themselves. Like, oh God, like Ellie, for example, in Last of Us. Like, the main character, the guy, what's his name? Joel. He's all right, but like what? Like, Ellie's the one who's like this little girl who's learning, stabs people for you. Like, this is like, that was like, Joel's nearly a silent protagonist, almost. Like, he talks, but it's like he's very Gordon Freeman.
I disagree with that.
He just does. Well, I meant like in like outside of cutscenes. Oh, I guess he does actually talk to her a lot. Oh, maybe I'm just being hyperbolic there, but I don't know. I found Joel pretty uninteresting, I guess.
So the way they used Ellie in relation to Joel is, to me, what makes that game. Like, their relationship is the focus, not necessarily Ellie.
Do you mean
I agree with that.
Oh, I see what you mean.
They're a pair. Like, they're separate characters, but the reason the narrative works for me is because they exist together.
Kind of like a foil thing? Yeah.
Kind of.
You know, I think maybe my opinion on that game is a little bit biased from outside sources, because I played it at a friend's house, and they kept trying to rush me through everything. And I got so fucking mad about it that I just picked up a brick and just beat the game with a brick. and honestly,
just like Joel would have done.
And honestly, I thought that was so ridiculous that I honestly didn't really care what they were saying anymore, because I just wanted to get to the next fucking.
Well,
brick.
that's definitely a tarnished experience.
Yeah. I feel like my experience may have been tarnished from that. So I was actually thinking about going and playing through it again, but then I heard like The Last of Us 2 was like, everybody's complaining about that, and I'm like, oh my God, but yeah, I see what you mean.
Game.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Let me hit you with this then, right? Since we're kind of in characters making stories, and whether or not being open world is going to be enough, right? How did you guys feel about Detroit Beyond Human? Did you guys ever play that?
Become Human?
I did.
Yeah, I played it.
I've watched a lot of it.
For me, what really threw me off was there was just entirely too many parallels to real life, and I was just like, this is exactly what happened in the 50s. What the fuck? And it's just robots for me, and that's what really took me out of it. Otherwise, the story is really nice and fun and just enjoyable.
Yeah,
like everything else about it.
So you take that kind of story, right? Do you think it was made better because it was an open world?
I mean, I don't think they could have done what they did in an open world game. I think the whole risk of open world is that you cannot guarantee people will experience the story in the way that exactly the way you want to tell it.
Well, that with the David Cage games in particular, like the way he structures them, you have to go through multiple playthroughs to get, like, to see everything anyway. So those games are weird. They're in a genre all of their own, I think.
Yeah, like where you
Yes.
have to, like any game you have to play more than like 3 times to get the full story. I think is just like, come on, man, ain't nobody got time for that. That's specifically the reason why I think Nier Automata is the most overhyped piece of garbage of a game ever.
Oh boy.
Oh, believe me, I'll shit on that game all day. It's like that game is garbage, dude. Chat's gonna freak out, but I don't give a shit, dude. That game sucks. You're gonna eat my ketsu, bro. But anyway, yeah. So overall, I think open world is.
I think it still has room to grow to even better things.
You
like
know,
when your small choices actually do make differences in your environment and stuff like that.
yeah.
But that's I don't know. I don't think that's anytime soon.
I don't know, I'm of the opinion that open world games don't really need narrative to stand tall. Like
You're saying the genre itself is
Yeah.
more about the gameplay than the actual.
I would agree with that. In fact, I think maybe that's the point. Maybe it's not that open world games have weak story. Open world games aren't focused on the story.
They're not meant to have a super strong story.
Yeah, they're
Yeah, I
gameplay
mean,
focused.
that's fair. That's
yeah,
fair.
I think that's a good point to end up on. Yeah, I think that's good. I think we kind of went full circle there. We came back around.
Good shit.
Yeah, dude, that was our first topic, guys.
We did it.
That was pretty good. I felt
We had
pretty
a
good about that.
discussion.
Yeah,
Oh, great.
I felt I was actually pretty sick. Actually, I had a pretty good time. Yeah, nice.
Keep it going.
One thing I do want to say to everybody in chat. This is why I don't like Nier Automata. All right, I mean, real quick segue. Anybody that sits there and says, "But Arcadum, you have to beat the game 3 times before you play the actual game," that full stop makes it not a good game. Sorry, I don't want to waste 16 hours of my life. There you go,
Perfect.
and done. All right,
All right.
there you go. Clap.
That was topic 1.5.
Yeah, sorry, just real quick segue. Game sucks. Okay, anyway. And then moving on to the next. All right, so you win, Scott. I guess I'll go next.
Sure.
Alrighty. Here's Chad is so mad at me, dude. And I don't care, dude. Like, oh man. But Arcadum, you get to hack as the second guy. The second guy sucks, dude.
leave Nines alone. It's not his fault. He's terrible.
It's not his fault. He sucks.
I was just programmed this way.
That was just programmed to be a waste of time. Anyway, here we go. So this is my topic. So we all know that Ashes of Creation is probably the most like hyped up MMO that's coming
I
out.
haven't heard of it
Well,
until you
Oh,
mentioned it.
baby.
Well,
you gonna learn.
yeah. Ashes of Creation is got a lot going on for it. But before we get into specifically what Ashes of Creation is, this is my topic. If someone makes a new MMO, what features do we think it has to have? Not what we want it to have. All right? But what features we think it has to have in order to be successful. And when I say successful, I don't mean like it turns a decent profit and kind of exists. No. I mean it challenges World of Warcraft. It challenges Final Fantasy to be the new innovative MMO. What are the features it must have?
Arcadum, if I had these ideas, I wouldn't be doing this podcast. I'd be out there making MMOs.
Bro, if I knew that, I wouldn't fucking be wasting my time here.
I have an immediate answer.
Well, what you
Right.
got for me?
And keep in mind that this is not something like alone, it will not meet that criteria, but it is it is a necessary part.
What
And
you
that is
got?
a persistent world.
Do you mean
Persistent
like changes that are tracked that are player interactive?
Changes that are tracked, and also all the players in on that server, they're all in the same.
I see what you mean.
Typically, MMOs are instanced. I don't think instances are.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
hate that.
I just wanted
Absolutely hate
I
that.
just wanted to double check that that's what you meant. Oh man, here's
Oof.
okay. I want to be clear. I agree with you, Snake, but I don't think it's gonna happen, and I don't think it's a feature that's required.
I
And
agree.
because
I don't think it's possible.
because that's the see. This isn't remember. This is not what we want. This is what we think it has to have. And unfortunately, if WoW has taught us anything,
Oof.
nobody gives a fuck about persistent worlds, man. Like as good as Star Wars Galaxies was, as good as like what's another one?
EverQuest. I had to go through zones looking down because there's so many people with effects.
Yeah, all that stuff. As
My
good
computer
as
couldn't
those
handle it.
good as those games were, they pale in comparison to how successful that is. Even WoW in its weakened state, is still superior to any of those games in terms of, not in quality, don't misquote me, but in terms of player base, in terms of retainability, and in terms of profit. Like,
Well,
you know what I mean?
let's look into why that is, though. Is it because that's Blizzard's whole thing?
It's interesting. A lot of the reason that is the case is because it's World of Warcraft.
Exactly.
People have invested literally 2 decades into the game, and they have so much shit. Like Jen plays so much World of Warcraft.
Okay. That's a fair point. But let's go back to the beginning of WoW when it first released, right?
Okay.
It first released. They had instances. They didn't have persistent world, right? They had instances. Like, and
Yes.
I know it's really hard to extrapolate what percentage of the success of that game is because of instances. Sure, I'm not trying to come up with that number because we can't do that. But my point is this, is that if you look at the most successful MMOs, right, and line them up, how many of them are persistent world? What ranking is the persistent world MMO in that?
I posit the question of how many of them would have been able to be persistent back then.
Well, I mean, I don't have an answer for that because we'd have to calculate their budget. We'd have to calculate risk factors. We'd have to calculate.
I think just straight up system requirements couldn't even meet it.
Wasn't there yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, like so, like in an ideal world, maybe some of them. But remember, this is not what we want. This is what we think they have to have. And
I know.
And I just feel like, you know, because that's what Ashes of Creation is supposed to have, is a persistent world, right? That's what they're talking about. They have this like node system for servers, and I am like, man, I want that. But do I think a game has to have it? And I think, like, what are the top 3 MMOs right now? World of Warcraft,
Wow, Final Fantasy,
Final
14,
Fantasy, and
EVE Online, baby. No, there's no way.
I actually don't know about the third.
what would the third one be?
I don't think it'd be Guild Wars.
Black Desert Online, maybe?
That's the one I was thinking of. Yeah.
Black BDO. I think.
Even Elder Scrolls Online.
Yeah, is BDO persistent?
Oh, it's probably RuneScape. What were you thinking?
Is it RuneScape?
I don't know. It's got to be up there though.
Wait, okay? Which has more players, Elder Scrolls Online or BDO?
Good question.
I don't know actually.
Who is third? Like, I don't know who third is. I'm trying to figure it out.
I would assume it would. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I just did a quick Google search. Let's see. WoW, ESO, and BDO is third.
Wow. So fucking Final Fantasy
14.
isn't even up on. Wait, what?
I think it's huge in Japan and kind of big in North America, and that's maybe
BDO must have like the Korean players.
It's the Korean market, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I guess that's weird.
I know a lot of, or I know of,
BDO
that
is
a lot of
persistent,
Russians
right?
love BDO.
Is BDO persistent world?
I do not know. Never played it.
Or is it PvP persistent?
I have no idea.
People are telling me no. To be clear, when you say persistent world, Snake, you mean like player-driven decision-making makes permanent changes for the server, or at least semi-permanent before they do resets.
I mean,
I mean zones are instants where you have to like join the Plains of Hope 14 to see your friends.
The causality is what I was going for.
Yeah, okay. People are saying that BDO is node-based, but it doesn't change the world. Okay, so it doesn't sound like the thing that Snake is describing it is a thing that the top 4 MMOs are using. Which goes back to my point that it's like, is that a feature that it has to have? I don't think it has to have it. I think I would love for it to have it. Man, I think that if it had it and it pulled off everything else, that could change the entire landscape. But has to?
I feel like that type of thing is too ambitious right now because it relies solely on players, and players like trolling and ruining things a lot. And when you have it entirely in their hands, it can get ugly and not very widespread appeal to a casual base.
Yeah.
You say that, well, the example I was going to use is an example that a friend of mine, Shay, uses a lot.
Okay.
You know Shay Colonel.
Yeah.
He uses the Matrix Online because the devs of that game had basically like how you have the living world set up with GMs running various. They have basically GMs who would go through and play with players and like run things for them. So if you could set something like that up in a game form and have it be persistent and manageable,
it just requires too many employees if the game gets big, though.
Yeah,
you can't support that.
Like God, that would be.
I miss GMs, to be honest.
Like the amount, let me use my own MMO that I'm running, I guess, in my Discord as an example, right? Each DM I have is the equivalent responsibility of 10 players, right? So I have 250 players right now. So that means I need 25 DMs, period. But then you add in the fact that I need like DMs that work on things like behind the scenes, all that. So I've got like 30 DMs. 31 DMs or something like that, plus 6 administration and then like 14 staff. So I have a shit ton of people that work for me for the amount that I have. So like if you try to cross section that up to like to do the thing that you want to do, Snake. So let's say realistically, as their full-time job, a game master for the MMO, if they worked 8 hours a day, could possibly be responsible for the equivalent of, what would be a good number, 50 players a day?
Sure.
Like I could see them maybe doing that, 50 players a day. So if you have 1,000 people playing your game, like 1,000 people playing your game, you're going to need 20, game masters, right? And that's per 1,000. So if you have like fucking 50,000, like,
and that's small for an MMO.
And that's small too. Like, man,
I get that, but I think one thing we're overlooking here is that MMOs all like. I'm not saying drop players in a sandbox and have GMs run everything for them. They're still the base story of the game and all the stuff around. In the Matrix Online example, they just did extra things for players who were interested. It wasn't
like events.
Yeah, things like that.
So like a sign-up system? Like how would they know they're interested though? Like what would define that?
They would pay attention to what the players would like. People would role play in the game, and they would pay attention behind the scenes.
It's all text based.
Yeah.
So that
they did the same thing in EverQuest, where actually GMs would like take over mobs, and then the mobs would start saying things
I love that before. Shit. I think that's so cool.
I saw once a GM took over a guard and was like, "You adventurer, go find me 9 other adventurers and bring them to me." And then the event would start and stuff like that. It was like there's just real big pog moment.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie,
things
dude.
Like that don't happen.
I think that having that work to the capacity that you want it to do, Snake, would be one of the most ambitious things ever. But I think I know what you're trying to say though, is that having a game where the persistency of the world had somewhat the versatility that you would get in a D&D game by having GMs being able to change the world assets and move things around in response to the roleplay and activity of the players in the actual server. I think that is a fantastic idea. But does an MMO have to have it to succeed? Unfortunately, the evil fucking corporate thing in my head tells me no. It doesn't have to have it.
But we would love it.
That's the thing. I think if somebody wants to dethrone WoW, someone has to try something new.
Exactly. That's why I went for that immediately is because in order for it to match those numbers, even come close, they're going to have to innovate.
I think
Okay.
the only reason WoW is at the point it is because there were not too many MMOs on the market. At that time, it was like EverQuest and like a few other games. Warcraft 3 was a massively popular Blizzard game. This was like at the height of Blizzard being awesome. And oh man, a sequel to Warcraft 3 that like so many people can play, that was enough to just jumpstart everything, I think. They had such a good base that even if they have a fairly generic, safe game, it still has so much of a backing. The sheer numbers you just throw at it, it doesn't matter.
I want to be clear. I am on team innovation. I am completely on team innovation. But I don't think, man, God, this is so against my own grain. Like, believe me, the guy says, I don't think the role-playing part's the most important part. You know what I mean? Like, just put a gun.
DMs, who needs
it's
them?
like,
You're being realistic.
who are you? Stuff like that. And believe me, this is outside of my comfort zone to even say this shit. But I think that, let's be honest. Let's really be honest. Obviously, we would love role-playing. But how many people that play MMOs actually role-play? To a meaningful extent.
There's usually like 18 regular servers and then 2 roleplay servers.
2 roleplay servers, something like that. Yeah, it's definitely the minority.
So
10% of your player base.
Yeah. So if we are going to be honest and realistic with what they want to spend the money on their features on, right? They're probably not going to budget their features for something that would take a lot of upscaling, which is what that would cost. Like that would cost manpower. That would cost extra assets that you'd have to be able to add. That would I don't even know how they would make the servers work for those kinds of changes, like on the fly. But
I think people want to RP more than they think they do.
oh, I agree.
Because every time I have people ironically go to like Moonguard, the RP server in WoW, and they fuck around, they unironically end up having fun, and then I make fun of them for it. It's like, you enjoyed it, didn't you, you little shit?
You're just a dirty role player, just like me.
I think
You're a
people
dirty little
actually
sewage
want RP,
boy, aren't
it's
you,
just
Gordon?
I think people are just still, it's like the RP stigma is still there a little bit, but I think as D&D keeps growing, that stigma is going to go down more and more.
I hope that there will be a roleplay MMO one day. I hope, but I don't know if that would ever be successful enough to actually be a monetary success. I suppose.
Roleplay intensive, I think, is the term you're looking for. But here's, God damn it, once again against my own fucking grain. I think that making those kinds of features will always be secondary to what people will actually be doing more than anything else. And that is the gameplay loops. That is the things that they're actually playing with, the mechanics, right? Those things will always be more important than the role-playing aspect, because ultimately, as long as there's text-based communication and animations and emotes, people can role-play like on their own. Like they don't actually need these extra features in order to roleplay. They can just do it.
Yeah.
Having those features would enhance it, but ultimately they're not needed to actually make it happen, like to actually do it. So I think if I had a limited budget and I was trying to decide how I was gonna throw things down, I wouldn't see, if I wanted to make a successful game, and by successful I mean one that turns a profit and continues to exist, kind of RP like that. Now, I'm also of the same bent that I would totally be in Snake's corner and like, let's fucking innovate and let's take a risk, right? Let's take a big risk that maybe what Scott said is true. Maybe more people want to roleplay than they know. Maybe if we can attach mechanics to roleplay requirements, people might actually do it and enjoy the reward. Believe me, the more I can make a game like D&D, the happier I am.
I'm just saying.
But yeah.
How many people have been like hesitant about RP and then they play D&D and they're like, well, fuck, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Basically almost all of them.
Let me give you an example of one of the best aspects of roleplay intensity that I have ever seen, and it was in the actual Dungeons & Dragons online MMO. And I'll tell you, it's so subtle and it's non-invasive, but it is the magic. And that is when you would go into dungeons, it would randomly roll a dungeon master, and it would play pre-recorded voice lines describing the room to you as you
that's
walked
cool.
into it. That's something
Would
they
be
did.
nice.
That's something they did in Dungeons and Dragons Online, and that was the shit, dude. That was so sick. That was awesome.
That's kind of the stuff I meant though. Like you can have those kinds of features without it being like a GM prodding a player to full on role play. You can just entice them with events and get them to play as normal and
Oh,
participate
okay.
that way.
So you're saying you want role play intensive events to be a full feature rather than an afterthought.
Going by your your metric is successful in the sense of turning a profit. That's it.
That's not it. That's that. Look, man, people are gonna look at me like I'm a corporate asshole. No, my thing is this: what makes a game good, right? It's a good piece of art. People have fun playing it, but it also has to turn a profit, because if it doesn't exist anymore. So I would say all of those aspects are required, and anybody that ignores one of those ignores the profitability aspect, they're kidding themselves.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I meant.
I know. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I just meant like your goal is to turn a profit, not necessarily be like as successful as World of Warcraft, is what I was getting at.
I would say that if we wanted an MMO to challenge them, meaning
Challenge them. Okay.
and let me define challenge. My definition of challenge isn't even necessarily beat them, but do well enough that those games might reconsider their own approaches. So I guess innovate enough to challenge, like World of Warcraft, for example. Yeah, I'd say so.
Okay. Well, I finally thought of a feature that, if I wouldn't say it challenges it at least, but a feature that it was absolutely necessary to even compete with WoW, and I think a lot of people can agree, is that it needs a jump button. You need
Fair.
to be able to jump. Don't know why. Any MMO where I can't jump, I just don't want to
That's
play
true.
it anymore.
Wow,
The MMO
dude,
walk, you must jump.
my brain exploded when you said that. Like any MMO you playing better have a fucking jump button, bro.
It better.
I guess
I mean,
that's
have
when
wrong.
you
I'm
ever
doing
walked
nothing,
in an
I'm
MMO
jumping.
without jumping? Like, come on.
If I see someone, a stranger in the distance, I jump. They know I'm friendly.
And
then
I'll
they
jump
start
at them
jumping too?
aggressively. Yeah, that too. Yeah, that's just.
and you got the bro moment. Yep. Good
Start
job.
almost
jumping
universal.
towards each other. Oh my god.
Yeah, that's it. That happens. It needs to happen like in real life. I just want everyone to start like MMO running everywhere, just jumping everywhere.
It's gonna look like a scene straight out of Rust.
Just fucking skipping into the fucking air, dude.
So the MMO.
Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I had a feature that I was gonna get to, but go ahead. That's fine. What were we saying?
It's just funny that you mentioned the jump thing. The MMO that I've spent the most time in is Guild Wars 1, and that does not have a jump button.
Oh, jeez.
Throughout my entire time, I wanted one. I so desperately.
And they knew their mistake, because in Guild Wars 2, they had
fixed it,
actual
yeah,
jump
yeah.
puzzles.
Yeah.
Was there really
Guild
not
Wars
a
2 was a
jump
great
button
game.
in Guild Wars?
And Guild. Nope.
No, it was very linear. Like you were on a track, like just going zone to zone.
Guild Wars 1 was a weird MMO.
I
It
love
was good PvP though.
Yeah,
PvP
it was interesting, but it was definitely it was strange.
Weird.
And I guess before we even bring that up, if you play 14, it has very little PvP. It's there, but no one really does it. And
Yeah,
I think
very
that proves that to even be like a good MMO, you don't need PvP. That you can sell it on a PvE experience.
I would
I
agree with that. I would agree with that. There's plenty of precedent for that. I think now we're getting to the meat and potatoes here, right? Here's my meat and potatoes with my heavy spices. I think the next MMO that is featured needs to have a dynamic class system. And what I mean by a dynamic class system is I mean that it needs to be a class system where you make a class and then you build into more classes and then you need more mixing. I honestly, dude, the casuality of classes and ability selection drives me fucking crazy in WoW. Like this doesn't even have anything to do with like it needs to be complex, because it doesn't have to be. But it needs to there needs to be variance, right? There needs to be uniqueness in the builds that you can make. Because I'll tell you right now, there's one thing I know for a fact that MMOs have in them, is that people play MMOs to stand out.
Oh yeah.
That
To be
is
a snowflake,
they
essentially.
want to stand out. They want to be the one with the unique sword. They want to be the one with the fancy hat. They want to be the person who invented this
Make
build.
your paper doll looks beautiful.
They want to be the person that gets to stand out. You know, even if not everybody wants to do that, the actual temptation of that being there, it can drive so much. And I will tell you that my favorite class system that has ever existed in an MMO was the one that Rifts had. Yeah.
I loved Rift, dude.
Yeah,
I actually
Rift's-
liked Rift a lot.
Yeah, Rift's class system was sick, nasty, dude. And if the next big MMO needs to just simply take that system, modernize it a little bit, maybe add a couple of new bells and whistles and throw that shit in there. And that will be the big feature, dude.
The biggest challenge of that system, which I mean, I love it. I love making my own classes. I love it when you combine three things that you like, and it gives you a dope ass like unique name for your class. You're like, I'm a Blade Runner or whatever, because you pick like agility and
Knight.
strength,
Yeah.
stuff like that. Yeah, I love that stuff. But the big challenge is the things that you picked that you thought were cool and you like. Is it even viable for playing the game? That's the hardest part.
That is the biggest unfortunate counter argument to that, is that, yeah, you can stand out as much as you want, but you're going to stand out alone in a corner because no one wants you in your group.
Yeah, there's a back to Guild Wars 1 that had the way combat worked in that, or like classes. You would pick a class and then you would unlock skills, and as you unlock, there were hundreds of skills for all of them, and you can make whatever build you want. But as fun as that might be, it might not be viable long term, and you would have to suffer the consequences of taking that into a public group if you did that.
At the end of the day, the meta is, I mean, the term meta exists because it is what it is.
Oh, I don't disagree with that. My point is that like Rifts did the best, in my opinion, balance wise possible you could do in a realistic sense for meta. Like, because even though what you're saying is true, Rifts still had so much dynamic versatility in roles that it didn't feel like that there was a bad choice, even though there were specific builds you had to do.
How seriously did you play that game? Or did you do raids?
I was in a top rating guild on my server. I played it all the way. Yeah, yes. So I played it enough to know what I'm talking about. That there's like, I'll give you an example, right? In most games, right, you've got tank, you've got heal, you've got damage, right? You know, boom, 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 bam, whatever.
Right.
So here's the thing about that. Each different there's 4 archetypes in Rifts, just so people in chat who don't know what we're talking about can get caught up. There's fighter, cleric, rogue, and wizard, right? And then each of those 4 have 9 classes that you could choose from, up to 3 of them, and put them together to make your own class. And each of them had like like 3 trees in them. So there was like 27 skill trees you could choose from for each of the archetypes. And it was pretty awesome. So it was like 121 different classes you basically had, if you counted it that way. So here's the thing that you got to do. Where most of the time, when in these more traditionalistic classes, you would only have certain character classes that could do certain roles. So like warriors could never heal, for example, in terms of like World of Warcraft. Or rogues could never tank. In Rifts, each of the different archetypes had at least one build that allowed them to do each of the basic roles that a group needed that were viable, and they designed it that way. Most of them had more than one. Some of them had 3. And that's where things got crazy wild. Is that in those kinds of fringe areas, you could even have further difference. Because here's the thing that Rifts did that I really liked. Their dungeons were dynamic, meaning that there were dungeons that had certain pitfalls and certain challenges that the meta couldn't handle. that the weird fringe characters actually did better in. Now there wasn't a lot because obviously a meta it existed for a reason, so it wasn't that common, but they did exist. So I think that Rifts got the closest you could get with that kind of dynamic class system to being balanced and still supporting a meta, because obviously there's going to be one. And like man, I'll give you an example. My character was a cleric tank who specialized in mana shields. And that was a specialization and a build that I made through hard research, testing, playing. I didn't use online sources. I didn't cheat. I didn't copy someone else's build. I built the items myself. I crafted the items myself. I made the character myself. And
No wonder you play Mordekaiser.
not only was it in fact viable, but I was one of the best tanks on my server because I put in the time. So that to me is what makes that rewarding, is that I put in the time to do that. Whereas now you have these games, like especially in WoW, that become so casualized that basically there's no real building to be done. It's done for you essentially. And I understand that they do that for accessibility because not everybody has the amount of time needed. But I'm going to be completely honest with you. I think that argument is getting weaker by the year. Because the fact is that if you're a casual player and you just want to do it, right? You don't want to think about it. There are so many online resources that build your character for you that tell you what to do, right?
Here's your rotation. Press these buttons.
Yeah, here's what you're supposed to do. And it takes one Google search. So, to be completely honest, the casualization of the game is fucking pointless now. I think I don't think it's necessary anymore.
But we're here to make money, Arcadum. We gotta make this accessible to everybody.
Yeah.
To say that a game is accessible because Google is there doesn't, like, that to me is a non-argument, if only because all those resources should be in the game. Like, someone shouldn't have to go through Google results to figure out how to play effectively.
Like saying Path of Exile is acceptable.
Well, but that's the thing, though. And Snake, I'm with you on what you mean by that. That should exist inside of it, but that's also an not only is it an unpragmatic way of looking at it, but it's also like unrealistic, because even if you put those resources into it, people will still use Google more often than that. And there's plenty of examples for that. Like, man, find me somebody who plays Path of Exile that didn't look up their build, like, at all. That didn't, like, go and get interested in that. Like,
Well, those people exist, but they don't clear the end game content.
well, my point isn't even that. My point is that how rare are those people compared to the people that look up builds, right? Or better yet, what about fucking multiplayer games? Remember, we're playing multiplayer games, so what happens in multiplayer games? Competition.
Absolutely.
People are certainly looking that shit up. Like, how many websites are dedicated to fucking, like, Hearthstone builds for decks or like League of Legends, for God's sakes?
Like, fair, but those aren't MMOs.
Yeah, they are. They're PvP.
Kind of a funny side thing, though. Even though
To
Final Fantasy
be clear,
14,
I'm not saying that League is an MMO. I'm saying that still applies because PvP exists in MMO.
Yes, but they're different genres, so that to me doesn't really work.
Those are not casuals, chat says. No, dude. Like, see, that's the thing. The term of what's a casual gamer is dwindling because gaming is becoming more and more acceptable to the mainstream. So, man, I'm sorry. This is a hill I'm willing to die on because I really think that if you approach any game, let's use any game for example to make this point. If you approach any game that you want to do better at, you're going to look up how to do it. You're just going to do it. Like, you will in the natural concourse do that. Like, it's just going to happen. And that to me is now more of the case than it is less of the case. And it's only going to get more and more in the favor of being the case. So if you're going to make an MMO that's going to have a feature that's going to, make it a good game, and that I think it has to have a dynamic class system like that. And I think casualizing it is the worst thing you could do.
I think you were a bit redundant there, though, because a casual gamer is not going to care to get better. And they're not going to care to look up stuff because they don't give a shit about being better. They just want to, ooh, let me just collect this shit on the ground. Like, they're just there just for the whatever.
But actually, that isn't my point. My point is that the term casual gamer is becoming less and less existent. That's what I meant. Is that, yes, if somebody who's a actual casual gamer that doesn't care about anything, are they going to look up that stuff? No. But they're also going to be less likely to be the ones that complain. You know what I mean? Because that's my ultimate point, is that normally the argument against accessibility and casuality of a game is so that more people will play it, so that less people will get frustrated, right? But if you're already a casual person, then you won't care about that anyway.
Yeah, I like the people bitching on the forums are not the casual players at all.
Exactly, they're the ones who care. So,
Yep.
So essentially, the only people that you're losing are the people that don't want to play the game because they don't want to. You see what I mean? like that's where it gets kind of
I
weird.
get what you're saying, but I don't know. It's like, go ahead, Snake.
The people who are complaining on the forums are the minority, like just wholesale.
The vast minority, yeah.
Like to discount everybody else who just wants, like, who doesn't care to look up a guide or whatever, just discounts a large portion of your player base. Like catering, I'm not saying that catering to the minority is a bad thing. Like having tools in place for those players to grow and feel accomplished is excellent, but tailoring to those players by default, I think will make it less successful ultimately, which is why appealing to the casual gamers is such a hot topic.
There's a reason mobile games are like the most successful games ever made.
Yeah, but I don't think it's because it's casual. I think it's because of convenience. I think what makes a mobile game so successful is because it's on your phone. That's why. I don't think it has anything to do with being casual. I really don't think so. I mean, I think that has a factor, obviously, but I think the reason that they're so successful is because of convenience.
Because everyone's got a phone.
Everyone's got a phone. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I think that's
that's
why.
fair.
I think that's more likely why they're that successful than the fact that they're casual. I don't, because Hearthstone's on your phone, and I wouldn't consider Hearthstone to be that casual of a game. Not really. Not if you're actually going to sit down and look at the numbers and how much money people spend on that game.
Compared to Magic, it is. Am I right, fellow Magic fans?
Yeah. But anyway, back to the main point of the feature that I think it needs to have. I think a dynamic class system that is complex is worth the risk of the hit that you take. And my argument for that in favor is that, with the exception of WoW, there are plenty of games that have risen to prominence because they had complex combat systems.
Well, let's look at this. We're looking at, the things that make it successful. What happened to Rift? Well, why is Rift dead?
Rift is dead because of poor management.
Did they microtransaction it or something?
Yeah. Rift didn't die because Rift was a bad game. Rift died because the people that made the game were bad at making games.
Oh man, I fucking love that game. Like I saw it listed on Steam. I was like, oh, what's this? I'll try it. And then I'm 30 hours in, I was like, holy shit, this game's good.
Yeah, do the Google search on it sometime. It's fucking depressing.
Oh, I don't want to. I don't want to be sad.
Rift wasted. Like, the people that ran Rift wasted their momentum. They did nothing at all. They oh god, it's very frustrating.
Squandered.
It's kind of like the same thing that happened with WildStar.
Oh yeah, I remember that game.
You guys remember WildStar?
Vaguely, yeah. It went away pretty fast.
Yeah, it did.
Well, here, what do you think about the level of custom? Did you ever play Classic WoW?
Yeah.
What about the talent trees? Because the talent trees were not current WoW, where you're this is your specialization, this is your build.
Oh, that's precisely what I'm talking about. I think we need to lean more into that direction than we are. I agree, 100%. One. Absolutely, dude.
Yeah, I 100% agree.
Yeah. Because that's what Rift had.
I hate talent trees, but I'm a caveman when it comes to MMOs. I just want to push a button,
dude.
He just wants
maybe
to push
because
match.
I'm that guy who just looks up builds and
See,
just
I
like.
knew it.
Yeah,
See,
whatever, man.
this is what I'm talking
Like,
about.
I'm not invested. There's so many numbers here. Look at all this.
Like, this
what the
is-
fuck's going
Like,
on?
this isn't against Russ at all, but this is exactly my point. The people that don't care about any of that stuff, they just don't want to deal with it. They're not gonna stop playing the game. They're just gonna look up a build.
Top
Well,
DPS
this
build.
is what I did when I played WoW for the first time. I was like, okay, I want to punch things. Someone's like, oh, you can be a fist rogue, and here's your build. And I was like, all right. I stuck with that forever, and it was fun. I enjoyed it, but yeah, I understand what you're trying to say, though.
Yeah, there it is. There it is. Boom. Look at that. What about you, Scott? What's your feature?
My feature for an MMO?
Yeah.
Dude, I don't know. It's so hard because
Let's review. Snake, persistent world. Russ, jumping. Me, me, dynamic classes. All right, what's yours?
all right. So the thing that makes an MMO is the desire to want to improve your character. So I think you always need to find a way to improve your character in some way, because I know a lot of the reason WoW gets super boring is it basically gets to one point where the only thing left that you can do per week is run a raid and hope your shit drops. If it doesn't, what the fuck else do you do for the rest of the week? Because even though you might get some gold or you might sell some shit or something like that, you don't feel like your character is growing for months at a time, and that's such a bad feeling. But I don't really know how to fix that.
Oh, well, it's transmog, maybe? Like just looking for aesthetic stuff?
Yeah, I
Because
mean,
that's improving your character, right?
I guess, but there are people that want their numbers to be better too. It's hard. Like a game like Path of Exile, I almost feel like my build is never finished in that game. I feel like I can play a character for 80 hours and I still got shit to like min-max more. There are better things I can craft. There are still little things I can tinker with to always make it a little bit stronger. But with WoW, it's like, do you have your best in slot gear? Yes or no? If not, keep raiding. If you do, great. Now do nothing.
That is the wash and repeat in progress.
That's a very large part of why I have avoided MMOs, like for the most part, for as long as I have, because that back and forth of trying to get the best piece of gear just doesn't work for me. There has to be something else.
Yeah.
You know, and this is where I think we hit the thing that we all kind of want, right? We want a game with soul. That's really what it is.
Yeah.
We want a game where the point of the race is not to run. The point of the race is the
Friends we made along the way.
no is the journey. The fact that you're moving.
No, I agree. That's
you know?
why I like Classic WoW so much.
Yeah.
The only reason I stopped playing is because there's just not enough content, because it's just one expansion. That's it. But I love the WoW Classic leveling experience. It was great. It was like I had stories, like little rivalries developed because there was just a constant player interaction. It was tedious, but I loved the shit
That guy
out of it. It
fucking
was so
stole
good.
my chest, piece of shit, torn motherfucker. Yeah.
I'm going Alliance.
Or you go to Stranglethorn Vale and you're like, I hate this place.
Because
Oh,
fucking
yeah.
8 rogues is jumping
There's-
you, but
there's
then,
so
but then
many
you call
tigers.
for help, and then other dudes jump the rogues, and then in 20 minutes there's a fucking war happening. Like, I love that shit.
And then you get
That
killed by a
place will give you
tiger.
PTSD.
Just
You just hear the stealth sound. You're like, oh fuck.
no, the
Virgin
cheap shot
gameplay.
sound, like the
Ugh.
yeah, I love that. I would love to recreate that experience, but I don't know if that experience was created by tedium or the fact. I think it's more due to the fact that there were very little instance things. There was no phasing. There was no shards of servers. Everyone
Yeah.
was in the same world. Like, you saw a guy be a
Yeah.
shithead in a dungeon. That guy was in a blacklist for the rest of his fucking life.
Oh yeah,
You
that was
see
the
him in
best.
general. You remind him what he did.
Yeah.
Dude,
I-
like, you literally like blacklisted players. Like, oh, this fucking guy. Like, he joins the group.
That's,
You're like, no,
Rift did
no.
the same thing. Rift had the same thing. Like,
yeah, I remember that.
yeah, dude, you get on there. Like, I became a little famous on my server for being a good tank. It's like, man, I didn't even know you could do a shield build. How many mana shields do you have? I'm like, oh, there's like 6 of them, but I have an item that gives me a 7th, and I rotate through them. They're
It's like a reporter interviewing you at this point.
yeah, exactly. And they're talking, and everybody's talking about it in all chat. And then some guy gets on there and like makes a political statement. Everybody tells him to shut up. Like, dude, have you ever actually read
That's
Baron's
MMOs.
chat? Like back in the day,
my
Baron's chat was the
God,
best.
dude.
It was the
Baron's
best.
chat- Like, I'm over here in Wailing Caverns and I just see some shit like Hillary was a piece of garbage anyway. just dumb shit.
You just don't get that anymore.
I
really
no,
don't?
actually, you do. I played Arcade like a couple
Oh,
months
do you
back.
still get it? Oh,
And Nations chat is actually like the most toxic shit I've seen in a long time.
that.
And because there were no GMs, people would they went wild. I'll put it that way.
The most toxic shit I've ever seen.
And the
Dude,
worst part
actually-
is like it's like Alliance chat versus Horde chat. It's like you're on the same team and you're just still like shitting on people. It's crazy.
Yeah, so you guys
Same team.
You guys remember
Blue on
in
blue.
you guys remember in WoW how the Horde and Alliance languages weren't just always randomized jumble, but they actually had words.
That's where
specific
Keck came
words.
from.
That's,
Yeah,
yeah, that's
Keck,
where
yeah.
Keck came from.
Keck and Burr.
Keck. Dude, that's where
I knew how to say in Alliance to Horde, me love you. And
Oh
then
my
I
god,
teabagged
and dude,
them.
everyone was spamming those macros, and like in
Oh,
the
yeah.
classic reboot, like everyone's, oh look, I found a macro, and like everyone says like,
Eat
yeah.
PP.
Eat pee.
It was like so. It was great.
And it was all like awkwardly spaced out and shit. It's just like,
Oh, absolutely.
Keck.
good times.
Keck. But anyway. All right. So we got our features. Let's go over one more time. Persistent world, jumping, dynamic
Mhm.
classes, and
Constant sense of progression.
constant sense of progression. That's what the next MMO needs to have.
There you go.
Someone
WoW
brought
killer.
up, an interesting point that I'm not sure that I agree with yet, but like procedurally generated dungeons or content in general, I don't know how I feel about that.
I'm half and half because that's like part of like lore almost when you go through VC and stuff and WoW is you jump on that big wheel to de-aggro everything. I love little
Yeah.
things like that, but I also love the idea of replayability when the dungeons are randomized.
Man,
Isn't WoW trying that in Shadowlands with Torghast? Like they're doing
my
like
gosh,
a
are they?
procedurally generated dungeon. Yeah, I've heard they're trying something like that, but I haven't played the beta or the alpha or whatever.
I guess here's the thing I feel about procedurally generated dungeons, right? Is that they're... This is gonna seem weird, but I would challenge... I would challenge that that they're actually not going to be that procedurally generated.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing about it, right? You got procedurally generated dungeons in an MMO. Then you have to consider, okay, how many assets are they going to have? How are those assets going to be prearranged? How much are they going to be prearranged? And then essentially what you end up with is not an actual procedurally generated dungeon, just a randomized dungeon of like 10 different variations, right? Because I think that's ultimately what it's going to be. And
You can only have so many variables.
right,
realistically.
right, and but I think that the variables are going to be so small for an MMO in order for it to function properly.
It's hard to
that-
balance that many
yeah,
variables.
Yeah, it's just going to be like, it's not going to get the same effect as like actual procedurally generated dungeons in games that can fully support them. Because I don't think you can be really, supported enough in an MMO to reach that same level of it. I think Warframe did it okay, but even Warframe isn't that... Well, okay. I'm going to be honest, I haven't played Warframe since, like, beta. So, they've probably done better, but I just don't see it. I don't know. I think it'd be great, dude. Like, I don't know, man. Like, could that be awesome? Awesome. Do I think it's going to happen? I don't foresee budget going into that. Maybe if Shadowlands' Risk takes off, I don't know. See, I honestly think that's the most, like, detrimental part of gaming, like, as a game design in this, like, day and age, is that the only people that have the money to experiment are the people that are the least likely to experiment. You guys know what I mean?
Yep. 100%.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
It's
that-
too risky.
Yeah, that's the shit that's just like, man, it sucks.
That's why we get a lot of stuff that you can just compare it to a different MMO.
Yeah. One of those things. But yeah,
Can we talk about the things we love, like features we would love to have in an MMO?
yeah, we can do that real quick.
Sovereignty, dude. I love when there's places you can go out and claim and like call it your own and build a little base. I love
Sovereignty.
stuff like that.
Sovereignty.
Yeah.
Okay, sovereignty.
Yeah, that's good shit.
I'm gonna hit you guys with mine, and I know, and hear me out. Hear me out, before we freak out, right? I want an MMO with actual proximity voice chat, and I'll tell you.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you.
That's an
what.
interesting idea, but again, people. On
yeah,
the
yeah,
internet.
yeah. People are gonna be pieces of shit.
Imagine
I get it.
Ironforge
I
and
get
everyone
it.
could talk to you.
Oh my
I
god.
get it. I get it. I get it. I understand. But please hear me out on this. If you make the system for muting and blocking easy and interactive enough and resistant to corruption and resistant to hacking, you could have some seriously good moments. Not
Absolutely.
only as a role player, but in like naturally meeting people. And you'd also get to work on your social skills. What were you saying, Snake?
Just like not just as a role player, but as a player. That'd be a great feature to have.
I just think it'd
Don't
be so
funny.
funny.
Me, bro.
Yeah,
Leave
like
me
in
alone.
WoW, like
No,
you're just chasing a dude down on your mount. You're like, little fucker, come over here. That'd be so funny.
Hell.
Yeah, I mean, you would hear racial terms every 30 seconds. You'd have to meet a new player or mute a new player like constantly though. It's just gonna happen. People are just
You can
pieces of
dream
shit.
though. You can dream.
I think even with that risk, and it will happen, I think it's worth it. Because I think what you'd get out of it would be more than what you'd lose.
I kind of agree, because if you have like a paid game with a subscription cost and someone's just, spamming racist terms and shit, they're going to get banned and they're just wasting money. So they're not going to do it infinitely. And eventually it would stop.
Yeah.
Yeah, we already run that risk with multiplayer games with voice chat anyway. Like it.
True. I just want to go into Ironforge and just hear like John Madden. It's just like,
7, 7, 7, 7, 7, 7, 7.
okay. That would make my night, dude. Like, oh.
Yeah, I think we do need it. I'm flipped. It's not a bad idea at all.
Guy just selling linen cloth on the side, and then another guy runs by. Helicopter goes. Brrr. Oh, that'd be so good, man.
I walk into Wailing Caverns and I hear, it's John Cena!
You're right. They needed to add that. You're right.
Yeah.
Take it back. It's worth the occasional bullshit to
At
I'm
least
telling
text
you.
to speech. At least
Dude, there's so much that can happen.
that just plays over each other.
John Madden.
Dude, main towns would be such a there'd have to be like a max voice limit or
Yeah.
something, because it'd be such a clusterfuck.
Oh man.
But those are the experiences that stick with you, though. Like coming after like a long day raiding, come back in the storm, and then you're just like, it's just like fucking chaos. That shit would make my night. Like I would remember that more than the loot I got that time. Like
some guy comes up, bro, I just broke up with my girl, man. So what?
fucking like busking on the side while talking about it, just like begging for gold and shit. Like, oh man.
Just some
The
guy
possibilities are
crying
endless.
in the background. And then you get like that one, like there's some girl on there who's singing and nobody's telling her she's not that good because they're simping for her super hard. They're just over there. She's just like, I'm gonna leave you. And they're like, oh, you're so good, Brittany.
Join my girl, Brittany.
Join my gal, Brittany.
Sign charter 10 gold.
Or my absolute favorite, the 10-year-old kid trying to learn how to cuss. Like not like you're a butt fucky. like be like,
baby?
is that a
That's a new guild name. Thanks, kid.
butt fucky?
Oh my
shit.
God.
All right, any other feature? Anybody else want to put a feature they want?
So
No, we already made the Elton MMO. It's done.
Go ahead,
Just
Snake.
jumping and voice chat. Go ahead though.
I don't like. This is purely personal preference. I would love to have an MMO without stats and skills. I want it to be entirely like skill based in that.
Like Dark Souls
players-
combat, but like in an MMO.
Kind of, yeah.
That'd be
Are you familiar
crazy.
with Exanima?
I've heard of it.
That like armor is a factor that like armor does. It has stats in the sense of like durability, I guess, and it'll like physical protection from where you get hit on the body, but it's by and large skill based. Something like that, but in MMO form, I think would be really neat.
Man,
See, that-
I don't know if it's
That
done
super
yet.
complements that whole sense of progression thing, because you will have an infinite sense of progression because you can always
Exactly.
improve as a player.
Exactly. More
God,
out
I
of
would
the
love
MMO
that.
proximity chat.
That with the
I
with,
might
that
miss Mordhau.
that with the proximity check, dude. It was like, oh, you think you can handle this? Boom, you've just missed, you little bit.
Oh man.
Or you got some guy trying to fight this giant and he can't figure it out. And he's just so mad.
God damn it! And the guy just in the back of that.
Dude, actually, yeah,
try
like
this,
a
dude.
Mordhau combat, like in an MMO. How do you think that would work?
I played Life is Feudal, and that was the closest thing to like a big MMO where it had Mountain Blade esque attacking and hitting and
interesting.
stuff like that. It sucked.
Really? Why is that?
Sadly, it just felt like a lot of your attacks didn't. This could have all just been programming, and of course the
So
development.
it was
of
the
the game.
technological limitation.
Yeah, I felt like it was because big battles did not work out whatsoever because there's just so much to logically calculate and stuff like that. So once everyone got hit with arrows, your whole game would lag because everyone's taking damage around you and reacting, and it was full. It was rough, but I would love a game like that.
Yeah. Okay. So Dark Souls with proximity voice chat
And jumping.
and jumping.
There
Dude,
you go.
dude,
Dude, why hasn't anyone made that?
I'm
Why
not
is there
gonna
not
lie,
a Dark
dude.
Souls like battle royale or something like that?
give me a Dark Souls MMO where like I'm like, guys, we gotta kill the boss. We have to open the fog wall. Who's not killing their demons? And there's some guy
I need to go
AFK.
sit at the bonfire.
There's just a guy AFK in the corner, like, oh my god. He's-
Just fucking like spamming Will What Is It on a macro into the wall. Oh man.
well, what is it? Hello.
Will there ever be another emote that can top? Well, what is it? Or point
No,
down?
That is in fact the ultimate emote in any game
dude,
ever.
point down. I love.
Point down's pretty disrespectful. I gotta admit.
He pointed down.
Nothing generated
so
more
mad.
salt than a point down. Oh.
The point down will never die, dude. Oh my god. All right. Well, good topic. We got through two. I gotta go to the bathroom. You guys want to take a quick break?
Yeah.
Sure.
All
Right.
right.
I'm sorry.
Oh, hi, chat.
Ugh.
Y'all need some music, huh? I love you more. Roko ni iwanai. Chibi betete ono ni biku you. Nano ni nano ni shada. Sayonara wa 言ってのダメだねダメよダメないのあたがわ I don't know the rest of the song, sorry. シューシーティクトゥバカ待てバカてバカバカ待てバカ待てバカ待て
So I went to go check on Zeppelin and the cat, the new kitten we got, and I had my headset on one ear, and I just hear that.
バカ待て
You got a new cat?
Yeah.
What kind?
Quote, domestic short hair, unquote.
All right.
I saw that cat.
We
I love that
quoted?
cat. Looks looking beautiful. I love orange cats. I don't know why.
What are we quoting?
Might be why I'm John Arbuckle.
We were just discussing Snake's new kitten, but also memes.
Yeah.
So I just thought of something while I was away. I think what I might do is I'll get some more of this art made, and like I'll have scene changes to where it's one of us bringing up the topic. We'll actually change the scene with that person as the focus.
That's a cool idea, and then have like a blank space in the actual image for like maybe like a text overlay you can put in like to label the topic that we're talking about.
Yeah, something
Somebody
like that,
in
maybe.
chat said that on the BRB screen we should all just have empty chairs.
Yeah, something like that.
Oh, that's a good
Oh,
idea.
yeah, we can
Yeah.
do that. Yeah, or like a bard's playing in the background. I could just play some music for a second.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
pretty sick.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
we
I think
definitely need
for
break embed
finding-
music.
For finding the topics later in VODs and stuff, having the topic on screen be a really good idea.
Yeah, it's just some more stuff we can do.
Yes.
We're gonna improve.
This is only the beginning.
All right, I think up next is Russ.
Hello.
Hello, Russ.
I'm Russ Money. Hello. I need to take a bow. Hello. So what my topic is going to be, I want to discuss deception games because they've been like on the rise lately. And why is that? Like, do people actually like lying to each other?
I think.
Yes.
Well,
Actually,
yeah.
I guess I left this out, but has anybody ever seen Jimmy Carr? Does anybody know who that is?
No.
I know that.
The comedian?
Yeah, the British comedian.
I
Yeah,
know.
That
He
guy's
had
the
a,
weirdest laugh.
he absolutely does, and I love it. But he did a talk show or on one of his shows, and they did a game where they put a carrot in a box. You know what anybody seen that? No.
Nope.
Okay. Well, we're gonna do that. I think. Would you want to play a little game real quick? See how good one of you are bluffing the other.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Okay. Does anybody not want to play? I think that'd be the easiest. It's 1v1. All right.
Oh.
Fine.
Challenge the DM, then you.
All right. All right. Arcade, I'm gonna tell you if you have a carrot in your box, and it's gonna be your job to bluff Jund.
Okay.
And all right, I'm gonna DM it to you.
All right. I'm looking.
And the game has begun.
So what's my purpose again?
All right. Well, I mean, do you have the carrot in your box? And Jund is gonna have the decision if he wants to swap it or not.
Okay. I do not have
The
a
game
carrot in
has-
my box.
Jund, do you want to swap your box?
This is hard without seeing facial like
Oh,
facial
absolutely.
movements.
Yeah, we're gonna have to
Um,
do it through voice.
I wonder if you are faking that first part. No, I don't want to swap my box.
Okay. Now what?
All right.
Now
Well,
what?
Are you sure about that, Jund?
Sure.
Jund wins essentially. Deception games.
But
Wow.
what?
There wasn't much. We didn't really go through much
That was a
discussion.
super
Darn.
basic version of it.
Yeah.
Oh,
I get what you're saying though.
I
It was basically you had to sell me on the opposite of whether or not you had the thing in the box, but it's super hard without seeing your face or like.
Oh, okay. I see.
I don't.
Yeah, I
That's
don't
fine.
either.
Yeah.
But anyway, no, I
I went on a limb on the idea and it blew up in my face.
to
Shit.
answer your question, I actually don't think it's because people like lying to each other. I think it's more along the lines of, first of all, people lie to each other all the time, but that's not really the point. I think it's because it is a competitive mind game, but it isn't as complex as chess.
Mm.
I think that is something that is certainly like a big draw to some people.
I can say definitely Snake and I played. That's how
Yeah.
actually I met Snake like 10 years ago, Trouble in Terrorist Town. We played literally thousands of hours in that game. And it's not because we like shooting each other. It's because I don't know why. It's like it's a safe place to lie to people without you making you like a bad person. And lying successfully is fun. But it's evil if you're doing it for a bad purpose. But if it's in the confines of a game, that's why like when kids find out about lying, it's like the most magical thing ever, because they be like, did you spell this? And the kid be like, no, I didn't. And the kid's like, holy shit, I just got away with
worked.
that.
I think it.
Yeah,
Go
like
ahead.
tricking people inherently makes people feel intellectually superior, and the fact that it's relegated to a game and not a serious circumstance eliminates the guilt associated with it too.
I can certainly
I
say
did
that.
like a little bit of research, and it's like it started, I think, with like Mafia and stuff like that. Did you guys ever play
Yeah,
that?
I play Mafia.
Did that start off like? How did that start off? Was it like a web browser game or just a game itself, like standalone? Because that's kind of like really similar to Town of Salem, where it's just talking essentially, like typing at each other.
I'm not sure. Actually,
Like the only instance I ever remember seeing Mafia was in like StarCraft 2 mod maps. That was like a long time ago.
Oh, I remember those. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's the first time I encountered a Mafia type game. Did it originate in StarCraft 2?
See, that's where it originates for me. That's where I know it was.
Yeah, I
Apparently
wonder
it was
where
on a
the
card game.
foundation is.
An IRL party game, huh? That also reminds me of that Werewolf is another deception game that people love to play.
Yeah.
And
Well,
then there was go ahead.
I mean, it's like it's spreading so much because of Among Us, right? I think that's like the main thing. Are there any other games like that that are kind of getting popular? Or?
I mean, before that, it was Secret Hitler. Like I remember seeing a lot of streams of
that's
Secret
true.
Hitler at
That's
least.
true. It
And
did
then
have a
there's other
huge-
other
feel like I'm talking
variants
a lot. Go
like
ahead.
oh no, it's fine. Other variants like Murder in Hong Kong or Deceit, or there's another one that Mmos loved to play. I can't remember what it was called. Like this, I may have been just Deceit.
There
I
was
think it was.
Deception, Murder
was-
in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
I was there, yeah.
Is that the
I
one
was
with the? Was that the one with the murder weapons and stuff like
Yeah.
that, or was that? Okay, yeah, I love that game. That game is awesome.
Where it had 5 different cards on them. Okay, so we all did play Among Us. Like, is there anything that you think that maybe that game should add or maybe subtract to it that makes it a little too easy or hard for either side?
Oh God, like it. I don't know. The arcadey nature of it is what makes it for me.
Absolutely.
If you add more to it, I think it'll lose its appeal for a lot of people, myself included.
It's really accessible and it lets you use your, lying talent immediately without having to really learn too much of the game. That being said, I still prefer the Trouble in Terrorist Town side of it because there's still, a skill component gameplay too. It's not just how good you are at lying. It's, you can actually kill people better than the other guy. Like you can be the traitor in TTT, and if you're a Deadeye, you can just not have to lie and you'd be like, yeah, I'm gonna kill you now and just shoot people in the face before you can die. So I kind of like that aspect of it more.
That was the one thing Trouble in Terrorist Town always, I guess, gave me trouble. It just that's Gmod, and that it was a first-person shooter, and it's just I don't know. Gmod for me always felt so wonky.
Yeah.
Yeah, hitboxes and
Yeah.
Gmod are weird. Yeah.
I don't know. I guess my whole thing with deception games is I always feel kind of I don't know. I always feel kind of bad because I don't play those games playing the game. I play the people, which is why I like them, because you get to kind of play against a person, which is also the reason why I like fighting games so much. Because fighting games, oh man, fighting games are like, you could have some intimate battles with somebody about that. Like you learn a lot about them.
Both are very much social games, and I love that about them.
Absolutely. They are very social. Like even more so than the standard social aspects of multiplayer games.
Have you ever tried a deception game that's more or less with complete strangers and still like feel like you can play the people real well?
Yeah. It's just, that because they're such social games, playing that with somebody you don't know, and you know the purpose is to lie to each other, can be kind of off-putting.
It lessens it. Yeah, I agree. Well, that's the thing. It's interesting because you can have that whole thing where you're playing the person, like, you know, you're not playing the game, you're analyzing the people, but they can also do that as well, and that's what makes it so interesting. Because now you have to like analyze if they're analyzing you, and then sometimes being stupid on purpose is the smart. It's like there's a whole you can go on that.
Oh yeah,
tangent forever.
And that's where that fun comes in.
Yeah, that's that big brain 5-head shit there.
Oh yeah, and I love describing myself doing it on stream as it's happening in real time. It drives people crazy.
God, you in that fucking Among Us game was tilting everybody, and I loved it.
It's so tilted, dude. But yeah, I mean, it's another one of those things where like it's like poker, right? What makes poker such a interesting game to watch?
Bluffing.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I've always had an interesting like opinion of poker. How skill based do you think poker is? Like ratio from skill to luck?
I'd definitely say it's 75-25.
So in favor of it being skill.
Absolutely. It is a game of skill. I would say so. Absolutely, it is a game of skill. Because and it's also, if I recall, legally described as a game of skill. Because it's all about knowing odds and knowing when to take them. And it's also about the whole bluffing game as well. Like, basically, there are so many factors in poker that the player can control that the random number generation of poker does not supersede that skill level. And anybody who makes that argument against that, saying no, because if there's any RNG, it's not a game of skill, then I invite you to play any game in which critical hits exist. And the reason I tell you that is I am a professional dungeon master. I have lived my entire life enslaved to the possibilities of what the dice make possible and what they make impossible. And I can tell you that D&D is not a game of chance, it is a game of skill.
Oh man, I don't feel outskilled when I get double sneak attack crit round 1.
Well,
I feel like I got outplayed there.
Well, you know, that's the beauty of D&D. You could have just not went there.
Bro, what? The fight started there and he walked 30 feet and stabbed me before I could do shit.
Yeah.
I'm saying in that scenario, I had no option, but that's not a very common scenario. That doesn't exactly happen very often.
And even then, you chose to be in a perilous situation in the first place.
Bro, playing D&D in general is being in a perilous situation.
Well, I don't disagree, but I'm just saying that is...
yeah.
That's what I mean, is it's like... Yeah, the point is that just because an RNG factor exists doesn't mean that a game doesn't require skill.
No, yeah, I understand that.
Yeah.
This entire conversation is reminding me of all the people who get angry at TF2 crits.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. People just play with them off nowadays. Had to make its own setting at that point.
That's the thing. I was never into TF2.
Yeah,
maybe. Yeah.
They were a random thing, and they would just give people, and they would get so mad so fast.
Well, see, I mean, is there any credit to their argument? Because nothing feels worse than losing due to luck when you know you played better.
While I do agree that's true, I'd say the converse is also true. That winning a fight you would have lost through luck can be a big pain relief. And then what you end up dealing with is the loss aversion psychology of human psychology, where losing something that is equal to value of you winning something is actually twice as worse than the difference. So it's like that I think is where you lose your that's where you lose your effectiveness of using RNG. You were saying, Snake? I think I cut you off there.
There's just a factor to consider that, like, sure, it sucks to lose in a situation where you otherwise would have won to RNG, but making that determination is difficult because, like, if someone just like walks out, like it's walking around a level and they get randomly crit, that doesn't mean they were better. Like, there's no guarantee that they would have won if they didn't get crit there. So it's a lot of people being upset about it and also stroking their own ego. It's a whole thing, and there's no real like it's different in like one more contained games, I think, but it's a whole thing that has existed online in games for years.
I
Yeah.
feel like that should be almost like a case study, like the psychology of crits in video games.
Yeah, wouldn't surprise me any. But,
I have a really important contribution to this discussion. Arcadum, why do you get purple juice and we don't get anything?
huh? Oh,
You
well,
got grape juice.
you don't want this. It's not grape juice.
What is it?
Cough medicine.
I can't tell you that.
All right.
I can't answer that. Drinks. It's that Lord
It is
juice.
violet. Oh God.
It's that Lord juice. But yeah. Anything else? Anything else, Russ, on your topic?
Oh shit, man. Guess not really.
Yeah, it's
didn't
a fairly
think it
like
too far. Yeah.
simple talk. I think people just like the allure of lying people in a way that it's not, doesn't make them a bad person because it's just fun to outsmart people like that.
I think
Pretty
it's just
simple.
a social game, like it's like charades, right? You know, like it's a social game like charades. No, it's not about lying. It's about just talking to people because that's really what it is.
Yeah.
Like it's just talking to people. And I think
Yeah.
that's awesome. Yeah. Because D&D is
Do you
a
feel like
social game,
it's-
you know?
Do you feel like it's easier to lie through like verbally or like typing at people? Because with the text you can like kind of control the tone that you're using, but most normally people like use their own tone in their own
I
head.
think voice just simply makes a more extreme version of whatever you're attempting. It can be worse or better for you.
I will tell you that it is 100% easier to understand somebody in voice rather than text. And it is even more of 100% better to understand somebody face to face. But that's
Yeah,
just
sure.
kind of how, human psychology and like human like social behavior works.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like I know Among Us was a local like mobile game, and you're actually supposed to like be able to see people's face and stuff like that while you're playing.
Yeah, like let me give you an example. Like when I hang out with somebody, when I hear their voice, I know like 3 things about them just from hearing them talk. Their confidence level, their region, and also whether or not they're happy. Just within the first 5 minutes of talking to somebody, I can figure that out. Like there's a wealth of information and knowledge that is in somebody's voice. And I think at any time that you get to explore that is a good thing. So that's why I like those deception games.
Yeah,
That's fair.
I still think you should be an interrogator.
Yeah.
Did you kill her? No, he's lying.
Yeah.
The human polygraph.
I will tell you, there are some games that you shouldn't play if you want to keep the friends that you've made. I don't think Among Us is one of them because it will never compare to Settlers of Catan. That game destroys friendships.
I've heard that game
Yeah,
literally
it
is like Mario Party tier of ruining friendships.
That game shatters friendships, bro. Do you want to be friends with somebody? Never play them in Settlers of Catan. You will hate
I
it.
play it with family.
Oh no,
It's great.
the blood bond.
They have to stay.
Oh shit. All right.
All right.
Good topic, Russ.
Thanks.
All right, Snake. What do you got for us?
Games as a service. How do you feel about them, and why is the crux of it?
Did you say games as a service?
Yeah.
Can you
Yeah, he's talking about games that, they're not necessarily super feature complete, but you're subscribing to a promise that they're going to keep adding to it.
Can you I guess I'm trying to figure out what you mean by that. Can you give me an example of a game that's a service?
The most recent example
Other than
I
D&D.
can think of the new Avengers game that came out. Like they have a not so detailed roadmap of features and characters and content that they're going to add down the road or down the line. But like people would argue that like the game now is complete, and it's also when you have devs that do games like that, more often than not, there's some form of microtransaction component, whether it be cosmetic or otherwise. Yeah, like Fortnite, Anthem, those sorts of things.
Oh, I see. Games that are designed to constantly be improved on.
Yeah,
Uh,
to keep people playing long term.
that is a good question. What do I think of that? I think my initial reaction to that is that that's good because that means there's more game. But to be
Absolutely.
but to be completely honest, my immediate counterpoint to that is something that's very simple. Nothing should last forever. And some things should not last that long for them to be good. Like, and my best example of that, just think how many TV shows have you watched where the last few seasons sucked and you kind of wish maybe they didn't exist.
That's fair.
Simpsons immediately.
Or better yet, like Bones. Like there's a lot of people that love
God,
Bones, right?
Fucking the end of Bones.
But Bones was just like, okay guys.
Yeah.
Oh my
Kept
god,
going.
you know, it just kept going. So I would use that as my example as to I think that games as a service can be a good thing, but I think that if I'm true to my heart, I would rather play a game that has a definitive ending than a game that has a promise of an ending. You know? Like I would rather play a game that I could complete and close the book, you know, close the cover of it, rather than playing a game that will always have a promise of more but never of the same quality, because there's no guarantee of it. Like hell, like if you look at the D&D games that I run, they have scheduled endings. You know, and D&D is a game that you could play forever. But I don't believe that specifically. You know, I think that every story has an ending, and there's no shame in having a good ending. You give respect to the ending of something, right? That's what you should do. Like I'll give you an example. Newsroom is one of my favorite TV shows ever. Period. I love it to death. I've rewatched it like 19 times. And for those of you that don't know, Newsroom is a show about a newsroom called ACN News, and it's a bit political, but mostly it's a show about maintaining one's integrity when being challenged. It was written by Andy Sorkin and a bunch of other people. It's got some of the best dialogue I've ever heard in TV. I wanted there to be more seasons, but they ended it on the third. And I think that was the best choice. As bittersweet as it is, it was the better choice. I think that the best ending you could ever hope for in anything that you write is a bittersweet ending. The reader, the watcher, the consumer should not like that the game is ending, but they should be satisfied that it is. That's your optimal feeling.
I immediately thought of Twin Peaks.
Oh
Yeah.
God. Well, the thing is, I think a lot of games are using games as a service as is essentially a cop out to release a live beta of a game.
Yeah, or funding or alternative
Yeah,
funding.
exactly. Like, has anyone played a game as a service that's actually like of like solid quality from like the beginning? I don't know of any.
I'm trying to think.
Repeat it one more time.
Has anyone played a game that's touted as, a game as a service that's been solid from the beginning?
Define solid.
A decent game with a beginning and an end for whatever
I'd
that
say
arc
Slay the
of-
Spire. Slay the Spire is a good example.
That is a good example, actually.
Yeah,
Slay the Spire is a great game.
I'd say Slay the Spire was a good game all the way through, and I think they did the game as a service specifically for they just needed alternative funding. But I think Slay
Yeah,
the
that's
Spire
not a
was
game
good.
as a service, though. That's a good point. They added to it, but they didn't tout it as that. That's not.
What
like,
about
Fallout 76 is a game as a service. Like,
what about Monster Hunter World? That's a game as a service, and it actually just had its last update. But I think that's a good example, and I think that's pretty sick.
And that had an ending too,
Yeah.
essentially now.
So, when the game first came out, I unfortunately never played it. It was a solid experience through and through.
Yeah, Monster Hunter World is
Okay,
fucking
so
great.
so you can do it. You can do it. Okay, well that's good to know. I think a lot of people, a lot of devs just bank on that to be lazy in the beginning and just like, yeah, we'll fix this shit later, bro. Totally, and they just keep stringing people along. That's why it's got a negative rap.
I would definitely
That-
agree with that. Yeah.
It's this whole thing got me thinking about where games, like specifically like mid 90s to mid 2000s, like N64 / PS1 to like PS2 era, when games were released, they were a finished product
Yep.
wholesale. Like there was no way to really patch them. Any bugs that were in them, and you had to deal with it.
Unless they did like another rotation where they actually fixed
That
it.
is true. Like that's not always the case. Like there was like the gold cartridge Ocarina of Time, and then there was like
Yeah,
the
but
regular
those were
ones
rare.
later. That yeah, true.
Yeah,
true.
yeah.
And they were the exception, not the rule.
Yeah, true.
And on top of that, you had to pay for them. It's not as like the average consumer wouldn't just get that update.
Yeah.
True. You'd have to rebuy it.
Yeah.
On the flip side, though, you had all the content that the game would have just present on the disc or on the cartridge or on whatever it is.
Oh man, here it comes. Yep. And now we get to talk about DLCs.
Yep.
Okay, so let's go, because that's the natural concourse that we come to.
Yeah.
Is DLCs, right? So I wanna tell you what my advice, my opinion of DLCs are. I think DLCs are fucking stupid, but I think that the reason that they exist is because people are more stupid than they are. And when I say stupid, I don't mean like that in like a detrimental way. I mean, look, man, these companies wouldn't keep doing this shit if people didn't keep buying them. So I mean, that's why they did it. Like one company said, "Hey, why don't I release a half-finished game and then release the rest of it later, and then see if people would buy it?"
See, a lot of companies do that, but a lot of games are complete products. Like the Dark Souls games have excellent
I'm
DLCs.
not disagreeing with that. What I'm saying is that the reason that DLCs keep happening is because people pay for them. People are willing to play that dumb game to get to it. And companies will do it on purpose, right? Like they just will. And they'll just do it because they can.
They structure games with DLC in mind from conception.
That's the problem. That's the problem. They plan the
Absolutely.
game with DLCs in mind. It's not like you guys remember the days like of old Blizzard games where you would buy a physical expansion, like the Diablo 2 Lord of Destruction expansion pack.
That's what I was gonna ask.
That's a
Do
fucking expansion.
expansions-
That's good
expansions
shit.
get a pass then?
Well, expansions aren't DLCs. Okay, to be clear, DLCs in this terminology, DLCs are something that was designed ahead of time, before the product was finished, to be paywalled content.
That I think is bullshit. Yeah.
That is what we're talking about. Expansion packs are things that come up later, that are invented later after that, or something that had to be scheduled afterwards. Now, is the line between them small? I would say that they are. And some of it comes down to size, expanse, and of course, intent.
Mm-hmm.
Because do you count up like, oh guys, we gotta patch this in, but we added some stuff while we're at it. Is that a DLC or is that an expansion? I wouldn't say it's neither of those things because it's free, you know? Because basically the whole reason this is even a problem is because these DLCs are gated behind a money wall. And the thing about it is, and this is where people can get really angry, is that like alcohol, you know, one of the best examples of this is fighting games. Holy shit.
DLC characters.
DLC characters in fighting games drive me fucking bananas. Like,
Same.
that shit is ridiculous. Especially day one DLC characters.
Day
Like-
one DLC is the worst shit ever made.
Like, day one DLCs is exactly the example of this is literally just a money grab. That's all this is. And it's, fuck, dude.
It's like this has been I've gone in circles in my own head about DLC when I think about the specifics of it, because like content that changes the game, like characters or weapons or anything like that, especially day one, is unacceptable as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely unacceptable.
I think about cosmetic stuff, things that don't impact anything but the way things look. And that to me is more, it's still a problem, but it's more acceptable than the alternative. And I only say that because I think about the longevity of games, like take fighting games. They don't make a new fighting game like they make Assassin's Creed games, like every year or 2 years. They stick with them for however long, and they have teams dedicated to patching it and keeping like the scene alive, quote unquote. So
Yeah.
when you factor in the upkeep from the dev side, like of course they're going to want to put out something to keep, like, to make sure it stays afloat.
Yep.
So
I think that type of DLC is morally acceptable, because if they are devoting resources to creating additional content, you need to support
Exactly.
those resources with money. That's just unreasonable to expect that shit to be free. Now, some companies do give it to free, and that's awesome, but that shouldn't necessarily be the default, because, I mean, companies just don't have infinite money, especially the smaller ones.
And I think anybody that, look, I don't think anybody that doesn't like DLCs is saying that I shouldn't have to pay for this content that you're making for my game, adding it to be new. Because anybody who says I shouldn't have to pay for it because I already bought the game doesn't understand the argument they're making. You bought the original version of the game, but now they want to add new stuff. So now you have to pay for that, because if you don't, then these updates won't be constant. And this comes down to the games as a service can be... The reason that games as a service can be a bad thing is people... Man, so many people don't understand what that actually means, that they're not paying. Like, people had a problem paying the WoW subscription. They're like, why would I just keep paying for a game? It's like, because it's being constantly updated, and they need to pay the people doing that. Now, I don't think anybody that is being reasonable is going to think, oh, that's wrong, I don't want to do that. No. But the problem is, and this is where we enter the dark zone, is that because people know that they have to support that, then they have to think, okay, well, is this company trying to screw me, right? And I can tell you right now, any company that releases day one DLC is red-handed caught.
Yeah.
It's not even hidden. It's just shameless.
Yeah, it's completely
they're
shameless.
selling you 90% of the game and expecting you to pay extra for the other 10%.
Yep, and here's the problem. People will fucking do it. That's
100%.
That's the thing that gets me more than anything else. Because you can be mad at the corporations for being morally ambiguous. You can be mad at a game designer saying, you know what, let's put that behind a paywall. You know, you can be mad at them. But they're not the problem.
It's the consumer's fault for supporting
It's the consumer,
problem.
because the market decides what's valuable. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
So if people buy it, then it's valuable and companies will use it. See, this is the problem with innovation, in my particular opinion, is that innovation has to be consumer driven. Because if people are willing to sit there and pay for the same garbage over and over and over again, then why would a company do something different? And the only time they do something different is if the market demonstrates a need or want for it. And that's kind of the way that it is. And that's why my opinion on games as a service is pretty straightforward, is that who are they servicing? The players or the corporation or the company? Because if the service is for the player, I think that's fine.
It's an interesting line to draw, though, because a lot of the time between like day one DLC and a lot of time there is actually very innocent early DLC. Sometimes they have a deadline, they just can't hit it, and then they release it. And I don't think that is necessarily bad. Like, I know even with a lot of Dark Souls stuff, like the whole Artorias expansion was already mostly done when the game was released, but they just didn't have time to finish it. And I don't consider that like a money grab or anything like that.
Well, that's because transparency is a thing. Transparency, saying like, hey guys, this is happening. Here's our evidence of it. Here's what's going on, guys. Sorry, we're gonna have to release this as a DLC. That acknowledging that they're doing something that is uncouth out of necessity is something that is different than not saying anything, releasing it, and then being excited as if that's the right thing to do.
but I need a golden version of my starting weapon.
Yeah,
I
see,
paid $5.95 for it.
I paid $9.55. You sound like a Jewish guy when you did that. Like I paid $9.55. That's too stupid to me.
I had to look it up just for meme's sake, but 601 add-ons for Train Simulator 2020.
Oh my
Excellent.
god!
And they're at on average more than $10 a piece.
I think the developers are just memeing it at that point.
Oh,
It's known as the
absolutely.
DLC game.
Jesus Christ.
Isn't there
But
like
yeah.
what? How many thousands of dollars of DLC does that game have?
I mean, it doesn't give me a total, but I mean, it's more than $6,000 plus the $50. Or is that right? Let me look real quick just to make sure. I'm sorry, $30 to start your crack addiction of trains.
Oh my god!
The whole thing that sparked my interest in this topic to begin with was something I saw today. I was torn between at least a few topics, and I was pushed over the edge by a I don't know if any of you are familiar with Dbrand.
Mm-mm.
No.
It is a company that makes like cell phone skins and cases,
Oh, okay.
and they over the past couple of years, I think at this point, they unveiled a case that they called the D grip or Dbrand grip, whatever it's called. And from the beginning, they had a bunch of issues with, like, people reported that it would just start basically falling apart, and silently they would make changes to it over and over again. And like for each, phones come out like every year, so they would make it like different companies will make different phones throughout the year. So they had different cracks at improving it based on the reports they got, but they also said nothing to the public. Today, they released a statement on Reddit outlining why they said nothing, why that was a mistake, everything that they've done like throughout the case's lifespan to improve it, what they're doing next, and all of that. And there was full transparency that should have been there from the beginning, but they're doing it now. And I read all of it because I had considered buying one of these when it was announced, and I saw the reviews and went, well, that's not really if they're falling apart, why would I do that? And I thought, gee, I wish game companies would have this level of transparency when it came to updates and other content that they push out, like expansions, like DLC.
Yeah. I think there's a morally good place that you could put that stuff, but the problem is, and this is really where it comes down to it, is that it's a business, and they'll always lean towards the thing that'll make them more money.
And it makes them money. People keep doing it. I've done it. I bought DLC I didn't fucking need. I don't even remember. I bought probably some skin for some stupid shit I didn't need. I don't know why, but people do it, and they're gonna keep doing it, and that's, I don't know. I don't see it ever really stopping.
I have so many Dead by Daylight characters I'll never play.
Fair.
I mean, some of that I think is an informed consumer decision, in that you want to support the devs. At least that's what it is for me when I buy like cosmetic stuff. That's really the only DLC that I'll buy unless it's like an expansion or something.
I still have that like smooth monkey brain where I'm like, well, I want to look a little flashy though, so I'll definitely get some cosmetic stuff.
Yeah. I think all in all, it comes down to, is this company just trying to make money? Are they doing it in a dishonorable way? And as long as they're not doing that, I think it's fine.
And I think it's pretty easy to gauge the intentions of a company. Like, you look at EA and you're like, well, they're just pure evil, so they're definitely just trying to fuck us. But
first day DLC on my fucking Star Wars Battlefront game. Why don't you eat my ass?
yeah, I think it's pretty easy to tell the intentions of a company, and it's, I don't know, it's usually very apparent. I don't feel like I've ever been bamboozled.
I know there's the thing with 505 Games recently, like yesterday, I think, or the day before, where they went on record saying that they just couldn't provide like a free upgrade for Control on PS5 for people that own it on PS4 unless they buy the Ultimate Edition. And then accidentally they upgraded everybody's edition to the Ultimate Edition with the press of a button, and then revoked it.
Fucking
Ooh,
see, this is what I'm talking about. Fuck them.
that's
Yeah.
rough.
Yeah, and that's just an example of these kinds of business practices, and the only reason they do it is because it's worth the risk, and it's worth the risk because the market makes it worth the risk, and the market is you.
Yep.
So here's
Man, isn't it?
here's
It's just so. Go ahead.
here, I'm just saying, here's the big word on it, right? You want DLCs to stop fucking buying them. Get your
Yep.
friends to stop buying them, because until that happens, they're gonna keep making them. Clap.
Cause they sell.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, that was 4 topics.
We
Wow.
did it, boys.
Yeah, we made it. We made it to the other side. What was that, 2.5 hours? That's pretty good.
Yeah, I feel like that's gonna be a standard duration.
Yeah, and I'm like, okay, so normally this would be like a segment of, we'd we'd probably have a guest segment if we ever had if we had a guest come in. I figured we'd also like maybe do a segment where we do like Patreon questions, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I guess right now let's talk a little bit more about just the podcast in general, what we want to do with it, maybe a little bit of meta there. Yeah, so I guess I'll go and start us off. I think I think we should do a current event segment, like probably at the beginning
Oh yeah, I'm alright
I
with
agree.
that.
before we
Like
bring up
what
our
we've been
topics.
into, what we've been playing, what we've been watching, stuff like that.
Yeah, and also like any happenings that might be going on. Like you gave that big list for us of like all the games that got recently released and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I think that'd be really cool. We could do that. And that might even be a natural segue into our topics. And then at the end, and this is what we want to do at the ending, is we want to do like fan art showcases and stuff like that. So this would probably be the time is when we do like Patreon questions or whatever. And then after that, we would like review art from like just the podcast and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because man, people love fan art.
I do.
I know I
Same.
like fan art.
I love fan art.
Yeah. That's just good shit. And this is the other thing I wanted to do. I don't have anything right now, but I wanted to do giveaways.
Hmm.
Like, you know. And this is when I was coming to you guys, because I'm going to go to Devin Nash. He's my, like, org guy now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm going to get a bunch of merch stuff made for, like, my Arcadum brand, but I'd also want to get a bunch of Night Council stuff made, and we could do giveaways on that and stuff like that.
That'd be dope.
Yeah.
And I think this would be a really good, like, segment to do that on, like, after fan art and all that. What do you guys think?
Sounds good. Sounds good to me, man.
I like all those ideas.
Also,
Definitely, I would suggest some bed music and definitely break.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
I'll
we-
get to
we-
work on that one.
Scott's on that for sure.
We need starting soon music, an outro. They're still working on that. Some BRB music and stuff. Also, day one pilot DLC. We need that. We need that as well. Gotta line my pockets with
Trains.
trains.
Train.
Gotta do it with trains, dude.
I'm so close. The collection's almost complete.
Dude, every week at the end, we should give away one piece of train,
Of train
Simulator
DLC.
DLC.
Just
I'll
train.
dude,
in
just
money
so
for that.
somebody in years from now will own all of it.
Dude.
It's like
I'll
paying
take that one.
tithing.
What an absolute lad. Yeah, I have to talk to the mods and stuff to figure out if we can do like some kind of giveaway system somehow. I have to figure out how to do that.
Did you ever think about viewer segments? Like if they had a question, like bring them in the call for a short amount of time kind of thing?
If we were gonna do that, we should do that through Patreon.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking.
Yeah. Definitely something like
Well,
that.
I think the boys are all too modest to deal with Patreon shit, so
I'll do
we'll
it.
leave that in your hands.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll do it. Don't worry about it. But yeah, this was a pretty good little pilot episode. I'm
That
gonna,
was good shit.
Let's get a 1-800 number and they can leave messages like
Oh,
voicemails.
fuck.
Oh my God.
dude. Yeah, that's the
One
thing.
800 the council.
Yeah, let me just open this. All right, let's see what we got. And then this is like, ah, yeah, that's just, I love
At
you
least we-
and I miss you. Ah.
Dude, I'd love to play those. We'd be screening them. It'd be perfect.
Dude, I know.
Can we
I
just do summer?
just need summer. Yeah, dude.
Summer,
That's,
stop calling.
oh no, that'd be
Click.
great. That'd be great. I turn on. All right, let's see what our viewers' message is, and it's just Russ going, "Hey Russ, don't forget to take out the trash." Oh, thanks, Russ. Oh, thanks, Russ.
Thanks, past Russ.
Thank you.
You got it, future Russ.
No problem, future Russ.
And record a whole like a voice opera, or not opera, but like a soap opera. I have in between with just myself.
Just do weird shit.
Leave in pauses. Yeah.
All right, let's see. Any fan art? Oh. Guess not. That's okay.
We got fan art. I'm looking right at it with the screen.
Oh yeah, look at this fucking.
It was incredible.
Yeah,
It's so sick.
isn't this awesome? Let's talk about this, dude. They did this in a week for us.
Seriously, damn.
Yeah.
Oh, I just noticed the background too with like the posters for the campaign. That's
Yeah.
sick. I was so focused on us
It's
having
the
our own armor.
thumbnails.
That's so cool.
God, look at how handsome Scott is, guys. Jeez,
Dude,
like
I have
that in real
literally
life.
I have a dying rat on my head. I need a haircut so bad. It's
Yeah, but you
getting-
clean up real good.
Yeah, but I ain't cleaned up, so
I
fucking
just
homeless.
I just really like how they captured personalities too, like Snake has this attentive, kind, like tell me about it kind of face. Russ looks like he's the only one that can see the troll in the room.
I'm just happy to be here.
I look like I'm up to no good. And Scott's like watching this guy lose at chess across the way, and he's just like, what a fucking loser. It's so good, dude. I love it, man. All right. Well, I guess that's it for our pilot episode. Obviously, we got a lot more stuff we got to add. We got to figure out how to clean up the segments a little bit. I want to do something different with this overlay. But yeah, I think this is a pretty good start. What do you guys think?
I had a great time.
Yeah.
Felt very, very natural. Almost like we're friends. Wow. How
Wow.
about that shit?
Wow. Feels fucking
Dude.
good, man.
Do we have like an outro line like the council has adjourned or something?
Oh, dude, that would be a great thing for me to think of. Let's see. What the dawn comes, the council disperses. Or something
I
like
dig
that.
it.
Yeah, pretty sick. There's something like that. Or we just have Russ laugh.
Just fucking honk the horn.
See you, night counselor. Whoa!
We're going for this epic vibe and we just Russ.
We're so chill. Whoa!
Oh man, that's awesome, dude. I do want to say one thing that my life has certainly changed in the last year. It has been absolutely
Bro, you got Felicia Day?
ab-
Just saw that shit?
oh wait, you didn't notice? You didn't know
I
about
didn't know
that?
that shit. No, dude, I just saw that on Twitter from Felicia Day. I was like, how am I finding out about it like this?
Oh yeah, I mean, oh yeah, we should do announcements too, like we were talking about. Okay, I guess I'll do that here. Yeah, Felicia Day responded to me, and I had gotten to a Discord call with her yesterday. She is now 100% confirmed. She's joining Jay's group,
Oh my god.
which is the K-pop star.
Oh
So
boy.
What a
So,
fucking group that's gonna be.
that group is going to be magnificently stacked. So there's that group. I haven't heard back from Jack Black yet. We'll see.
Damn. Dude, at this point, I'm
Who'd
actually
thought you'd ever say
entertaining that.
something like that?
I know, like I'm actually entertaining that. Like, oh, really? He didn't get back to you? That's it's weird.
Oh, I just want it
It's like,
so
That's
much.
strange. That's strange. They didn't get back to you. But yeah, there's that, and also there's another game that's kind of in the works right now, with Soda Poppin'.
When will you sleep?
It was with Soda Poppin', Moon, Vigor, Clint Stevens,
Oh my
and
god.
and Daft 39. At least
Oh my
that
god.
that is the preliminary group. Now
That is going to be the most chaotic, stupid group you have ever had, guaranteed.
that's not 100% sure that that's what's going to happen, but that's kind of what people are.
It's in the air, but it's
Oh,
there.
Moon said on stream that Daff and Clint said no.
Aww,
Oh, I didn't know about that. Nobody told me that.
that's unfortunate for them.
It's all right. Soda will provide maximum levels of chaoticity, but it's fine.
Dang, I was really looking forward to running for 39 Daff. All right, that's fine.
It was bad, man.
I've got other people. Like Red. Ooh.
Lakari? Dude, is Lakari going to get back in?
Dude, get a...
Son of Lakari, of
all right.
House Lakari.
There's something else.
How? My 73rd game.
I was talking with Felicia Day, and she's telling me a bunch of stuff about, like, you know, Critical Role and stuff like that. But I have heard through the grapevine, through places that I can't tell you. But I have heard from someone who has met with the people for Critical Role that they know who I am.
Oh my god.
And I have to tell you that is very unsettling.
How erect? How Dungeon Master erect does that make you?
I don't know. It's just having somebody tell me that the people they talk to that like run Critical Role or whatever knew who I was is ridiculous.
That's neat as heck.
Yeah,
That is seriously awesome.
it's overwhelming actually.
What
You're
an
making
accomplishment.
waves.
But anyway. Good stuff, guys. This was a nice little podcast. I like this.
I loved it, dude.
Yeah. I fucking really like this, man.
Have to do it again sometime.
Hell yeah. We'll do it. So, like, okay, so we good for Saturdays at 10 p.m. CST? That's still something you want to
Yes.
do?
Works for me.
Right.
All right, coolio. So we'll get that. I'm going to be putting these up on YouTube, and I'm going to see if I can put them up on Spotify somehow, and then we'll get all that together and just keep going. Before we go, though, one more time, chat room. To all 3,500 of you in here, which, by the way, holy shit, there's so many of you in here for the first episode. Please follow Scott Jund, Russ Money, and Snake. They are fantastic. They were gracious enough to allow me to host this on my channel, so please go and support them as well, because they are fantastic. Mods, please provide the links. Good stuff. Thank you guys so much for hanging out at the podcast.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us, man.
Hell yeah, brothers. And to chat room, thanks for watching, guys. I don't have an outro. So I guess...
Do the dawn line.
Do the what?
Do the dawn line.
Oh, right.
The dawn rises. The council disperses.
And then I would, like, mute and deafen and play, like, some Final Fantasy goodbye music. What's a good...
To Xanarkin.
Ooh, we doing that? Okay.
It's a
man.
classic.
Oh, shit.
Only if you have it like 2% volume, Titus laughing in the background as well.
Oh my god.
Oh god, I can't do that. Give me some Final Fantasy 7 outro music from the remake. Give me what's a good outro? Aerith theme? Aerith theme's pretty good.
I'll go Eris or Tifa, yeah.
Yeah, Aerith theme's pretty sick.
What kind of vibe do you want for outro?
Like a little sad, wistful.
Little sad?
Yeah, because we're leaving, yeah.
Yeah, alright, fair enough.
Alright, I'm gonna mute and deafen, say goodbye to chat, and then I'll come back and hang out with you guys for a second. don't forget, if you liked what you saw today, please don't forget to follow the channel and the channels of Scott, Russ, and Snake. And don't forget, you can support us by subscribing. Any subs gained during a Night Council show are split between all of us. So a sub here is a sub to them. Yeah. And this is something that we're going to do until we can get like a Patreon to fully support us. Holy shit, that's a lot of subs. Thank you guys so much. Thank you for coming by. Thank you for hanging out with us. Giving us a chance to entertain you with our words and conversation. I hope to see you guys again for the next time. And remember that any proceeds made during the Night Council is split between all of us. So if you wish to support the boys as well as me, you can do all of that at the same time. Good night, chat room. Thank you guys so much. I'll see you guys next time. The dawn rises. And for now, the shadows recede.